Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the Saiyan Fanfics, back with amazing fanfiction. This is the series of What If Vigilante Deku Had Regeneration Quirk. Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. Stress was not the word that could describe Izuku. There was so much more than just stress. He has so much he feels like he needs to get done, while at the same time, everyone keeps taking care of everything. In short, he's feeling pretty restless, definitely useless, much like boy, Deku, I've been trying to get a fucking coffee for the last 5 minutes. Kaken grabs him by the apron and pulls him over the counter. Cut it out, he whines, struggling to get out of his grip. You'd think making explosions for a living would fuck up some of his muscles and ability to have a firm grip. But no, he's actually strong. Make my coffee, nerd. I will. He chuckles, turning to prep the espresso machine for another drink. I can't fucking believe it. Kaken sighs, running a hand through his hair. What, that I look this hot in an apron? He jokes, sticking his tongue out when Kaken makes a fake vomit sound. No, fuckwad, that you're getting married. That someone would actually want you. Damn, years ago he'd say that and actually mean it. Look at this softie. That's right. Tomorrow is Izuku's wedding. It's unreal. You think people will have questions? Of fucking course they will. You never became a hero. You just disappeared to everyone else after graduating. The entire world will be waiting to see who Icy Hot is marrying. They know he's marrying Oni. They don't expect him to wear a mask to his own wedding. I'm still working on that part. We have a list of people with illusion quirks. I won't have a mask on to Shadow, but everyone else will see me in a mask. It's just a matter of whether or not to have an illusion quirk work on Shadow, or to have a quirk work on everyone else. The ideal will be to wear my mask and then use a quirk to make him not see me in a mask. A quirk to let him see my face. Shadow's probably interviewing people for the right quirk as they speak. When are you proposing to Kirishima? Izuku asks, laughing when he hears Kaken choke on coffee. Who said heroes have time for that shit? Shadow's a hero and he's getting married. Unlike you, I have a job. Kaken, you're literally in my coffee shop. Shut it. Just propose. You already act married. It's not our fault that you just can't handle the thought of Kirishima in a suit ready to put a ring on your spiky ass. Instead of cursing him out, Kaken huffs a bit, sitting back. It's been 4 years since graduating UA. No one else really found out about him being Oni. After graduating, he effectively disappeared. The world wonders where the last student of Wano went, seeing as there's been no news of Izuku dying or anything. He sued several shops for selling he and Toshi's merchandise and anything related to their respective brands without permission or payment. He did it the moment he turned 18, and had enough to start a coffee shop just like he's planned since his first year. Toshi nearly cried when he was blindfolded and brought to the grand opening of Inko's Drinkos, a coffee shop next door to the apartment building made for the heroes of Class 1A. It was a lot easier to get an apartment complex built for heroes only than they thought. The public agreed that allowing more privacy for heroes would benefit everyone. Too many were getting burnt out from constantly being in the public eye. This way they have a safe place to recharge. There's enough heroes around to cover other parts of the cities. And they never all have the same days off, so there's always going to be a chunk of them patrolling. When Toshi saw the coffee shop, he was amazed, but at the same time overly suspicious. He asked what else was there. How'd he know I'd have a basement? More specifically, a lair. Oni's entire base is located under this coffee shop. A bell gets his attention. The door opens and Dad trudges in, prompting Izuku to make his coffee. Thanks, little intern. Stop calling me that, Dad. I haven't interned with you in forever. Yeah, and there was far less property damage when you did. Maybe you ought to. Yeah, he mumbles, scrolling through his phone. He sees countless tweets and posts about his wedding tomorrow. Wow, this is a lot of fan art of us. All of them is pretty, but none can seem to match his soon-to-be husband's actual beauty. God, am I whipped. At home, Shadow opens the door and listens, singing in the shower. Izu, I'm home. He calls, giving a soft knock on the bathroom door. You can join me if you want. Izu answers, voice sounding like he's definitely grinning. I would, but I'm starving. I'm getting a head start on making dinner. After he explains, he hears a few thuds and then the bathroom door opens. Izu, put on a towel or something. You're getting water all over the floor. You are not cooking tonight. You've been running around doing so much work. Just rest. But, the only but involved here is this one. Izu points to his rear, making Shadow roll his eyes at the stupid joke. Which means I will not allow to hear of any more of them. You're not cooking and that's final. You can eat a snack to hold you over. I'll order food. Izu moves to go into their room and get his phone, but Shadow grabs him before he gets the bed wet. Shower. Oh, yeah. Izu howls with laughter, returning and shutting the door and presumably finishing his shower. Shadow eats some popcorn and waits on the couch, scrolling through his phone. His face is everywhere. Right, heroes getting married is a big deal. Soft stomping gets his attention. He looks up and sees Izu barreling towards him like a demon and jumping onto the couch, almost knocking it backwards onto the floor. "Why are you like this?" Shoto jokes, opening his arms to allow Izuku to wrap around him. To be entirely honest, Shoto is kind of happy Izuku stopped growing in his second year, allowing Shoto to be taller and therefore able to wrap his arms around him much easier. I feel like I'm keeping him safer, even though the world knows no one is needed to defend Izu besides himself. Because it's funny to me. Say, did you find someone with a good illusion quirk? I did actually. He hums. Their quirk allows them to make me see through anything I want, up to 6 hours. So long as it's nothing too thick, like steel. That's perfect. Izu smiles, then frowns ever so slightly. What's wrong? I realize that means you're going to see me cry. I've seen you cry before. You're a crybaby. Shoto teases, dodging when Izu tries to push him away. It'll be fine. Tears of joy are fine. You're going to be stuck with me forever. Izu jokes. D1 to 50 RC Shoto spells, laughing at the scandalized look he gets in response. I'd never. It doesn't matter. I'd stalk you. Already do. Do not. The conversation dissolves into laughter. The two watch TV and wait for the food to arrive, curled up together on the couch. He feels eyes on him and looks down. Izu stares at him in a look he can only describe as pure adoration. What? I can't believe I get to marry you. He breathes. Shoto feels his face head up a bit and kisses him softly. After all these years, Izu still surprises him. I can't believe I get to marry you. Izu repeats again, smiling ear to ear. When their food arrives, Izu texts Shinsu and Bakugo, saying they can come join them. It's become a sort of tradition to come over if ordering food. Shinsu shows up first, tired as always. In the doorway he fixes his hair, retying the bun it was in. Is he sure he's not actually Aizawa's son? Secret love child? This man looks so much like Aizawa now it's frightening. What's going on? Shinsu asks Shoto, moving past him to remove his shows. Is he being hyper? Sort of. Not as much as I thought he'd be. He admits. Huh, weird. Shinsu shrugs, bracing for when Izu throws himself into his arms. Hey, Izuku, I'm getting married. Yeah, I'm aware. To him. Yeah, I'm aware. I'm so happy. Izu fake sobs, burying his face into Shinsu's shirt. That's great and all, but if you blow your nose in my shirt I'm going to brainwash you into missing your own wedding. Please don't, I'd look like a fool. Shoto interjects, getting a shrug from Shinsu, showing he's not against that if it means Izu's a fool too. A hot one at that. Izu compliments, getting dropped by his brother. There's a sink over there. Shinsu points out. What does that mean? Shoto asks with a tilt of his head. I just thought because Izuku is so fucking thirsty right now, he ought to know where the nearest water source is. Wow, rude. Besides, I'll drink water when I'm dead. I know where this is going. Bakugo and Kirishima arrive after a while, prompting them to throw on a movie and eat. It's nice, actually. Shoto wouldn't go out of his way to have his apartment full of people, but he's gotten so used to them that he doesn't mind at all. More people from their class show up, cramming into the apartment and joining them. Is the whole class here? Midoriya. Ida greets with a wave of his arms. Hey Ida. Izu nods. Where's your so's? Achako and Tsuyu went to get coffee before meeting us here. They're bringing me one as well. So, if I text one of them, they could bring me one too. Seeing as we are in your home, I don't see why not. This causes Izu to quickly take his phone out and type far too fast. Todoroki, how goes it? Ida greets. I'm doing all right. You? Good, good. I imagine you're fairly stressed. Shoto thinks over the question a bit. Am I actually stressed? No, he doesn't think he is. Hell, he was even more stressed out asking Izu to prom than to marry him. Maybe I just realized he'd say yes no matter what. I don't think I'm stressed. Happy. By the end of the night, half of Class 1A is collapsed around Shoto's apartment. With a small smile, he cleans up the plates and cups sitting around. On the couch is Ida with Uraraka draped over his lap, and Tsuyu draped over Uraraka's. How Ida can still breathe is beyond him. The floor has Bakugo and Kirishima, passed out. Were they drinking? He didn't notice if they were or not. Shinsu's awake, typing at the table with a tired expression. Ajiro is asleep at the table as well, and every once in a while Shinsu watches the boy wag his tail. Under the table lays Kaminari and Shiro. That cannot be comfortable. You look like Dad doing a roll call. Shinsu speaks up, taking his hair down. I am doing a roll call. Then where's your husband? He's not my husband yet, Shinsu. He points out. That's a good question actually. Shoto excuses himself from their conversation to look around the apartment. Maybe he's asleep. No, this is Izuku Midoriya he's talking about. Wait. He opens their bedroom door and watches Izu tense and turn, shit-eating grin very apparent. Were your spidey senses going off or something? Izu tries, mask still in his hands. Izu, hear me out. Izu drops the mask and wraps his arms around Shoto. Oh, he's trying to use puppy dog eyes on me. I'm so excited for tomorrow that I can't sleep. So what if I patrol a little bit, just to tire myself out? Or we can go to bed and you can eventually fall asleep. He tries, knowing well that's not how it works. Shadow, he whines, stomping his feet a bit. You know I wouldn't sleep. I'd be up all night thinking, wow, I get to marry this guy. He kisses Shadow's cheek and plays with his hair a bit. You better not tangle it. They'll be mad if it takes longer to put my hair up. Your fault for choosing to include braids. He's kind of right. Right now, Shadow's hair sits at his waist. He hasn't had anything besides trims since his first year. Anyways, if I patrol now and go run around a while, I'll be knocked out when I get back. Only if you shower again. I don't want to wake up to you smelling all sweaty. You don't. No, you goof, I don't. He laughs, letting Izu finish getting ready. Promise you'll be safe. At least, we have this talk every time, you know. I can't die, I'll be fine. You can't die, but what if something else happens? He can't help but be nervous. Izu's the most capable person he's ever met, and he still worries for him. That he'll come home one day and find their apartment empty and never see this man again. It terrifies him. Like what? Izu snorts. Like Overhaul, he offers, tensing when he sees Izu look away. I haven't thought about that in a long time. He breathes. Okay, that definitely wasn't one of my best moments, but I'm still here and I'm okay. Stay that way or else I'll turn into a villain. Shadow huffs, not meaning a word of it. It's clear that Izu isn't convinced either. Okay, then I'll be really sad and lonely and you don't want that. Fine, you got me. He laughs. Is Iri coming? Are we going to have a kids' table or something? Well, All Might said he's coming, so that probably means Iri is too. Koda is coming with the Pussycats. So there's a small kids' table for them and for any other kids that show up. Gotcha. Did you see all the news with Tsukachi? And how he's coming to the wedding but made no promises to not arrest me? Yeah, I heard and I accept that challenge. Izu, if you get arrested we can't have a honeymoon. The fear is apparent on Izu's once smug face, so he does have priorities. Okay, I'm going to patrol now. He kisses Shadow, puts on his mask and jumps from the window. Izu races off, hopping from building to building. The air whips through his mask and embraces him. He's never been happier than he's been the last few years. Sure, every once in a while some great evil shows up and he has to kick ass, but it's usually all for one, who seems more reluctant to fight each time they meet. Losing repeatedly after all these years of winning must suck for him. The police has more or less backed off, seeing as it had caused public uproar to arrest Oni. They said so long as I don't promote other vigilantes it might be okay, which is a lot better of a deal than he thought he'd get. He's about to move to the next neighborhood, but screaming gets his attention. He takes his bow staff out and jumps down into the alley. As he's falling, he sees a familiar figure across the street. Dad's patrolling too, huh? He manages a wave before fading from sight. On the ground, the screaming echoes around the walls. It sounds like they're in pain. There's no one in the alley, though. Izuku realizes it too late. Someone from behind already shot him with a dart. He feels his eyes roll up and he goes limp, hitting the concrete and watching the world blur around him. Izuku slowly wakes, mad as hell and too tired to deal with anything. His arms are bound to the chair he sits in. He jokes, looking around. He's in a warehouse, but there's very little security around. That means whatever's going to happen will be real simple and not worth the time and resources. He'd like to think he can just use one for all and break out of this chair. But no, someone thought ahead. Quirk suppressants, huh? The question is, do they plan to kill me? Or just make me drowsy? The sound of breathing behind him gives away the presence. Though, he doesn't think this person ever planned on keeping their presence concealed. Oni, they greet, stepping out in front of them. Their face is littered with clocks, all seeming to be naturally protruding from their skin. Their eyes have clock hands, still and unwavering. Nice way of luring me into an alley. Vague screaming. How'd you know I couldn't resist? She strikes a punch, whipping Izuku's head to the side. The chair tips. Shut it. I hate you. Yeah, I kinda figured. So, what's this about? Did I lead to your Boothang getting arrested or something? He guesses. It's usually revenge type stuff that leads me here. Either that, or people try to take him down before he can get them. It reminds him of the days where he and Dad would try outsmart each other. It reminds him of when Hasashi tried to kill him before he could. But times have changed. You know what? This kind of drowsiness is just what I need. I can get out of this and go to bed with Shadow. Well, if you'll excuse me, I have to get going. He hums, checking the time on a watch he mostly certainly doesn't have on his wrist. I'm getting married to Shadow Todoroki tomorrow, I know. Oh, is that what this is? You have the hots for him too. He sneers, earning himself another punch. I'm in love with him, she shouts, turning and slamming a boot into Izuku's jaw. You think this will shut me up? Aren't we all? He manages, annoyed by his lack of quirks. God, you ever fucking shut up? She screeches, stomping into the ground. I'm literally famous for being the vigilante that sasses people. What did you think would happen? In any case, she takes a deep breath, no doubt trying to keep Izuku's nonsense from getting to her. You took Shadow away from me. She snarls. I literally do not know what to say. He stifles a laugh. The only thing that took Shadow away from you is the fact that he's gay. What do you mean it's my fault? He howls with laughter, kicking his feet. Oh my god, she's a fangirl. Keep laughing. You're never going to see him again. What? He stops laughing, ready to take this freak seriously. No one ever survives my quirk. What is it? Being blinded by your own obsession for someone. Worse, Oni. You'll relive the worst days of your life over and over and over again. Time loop. No one's ever come back from it? He asks cautiously, looking for any signs of a lie. No one. They die. They all eventually kill themselves before escaping my quirk. But if I can't die, then what does that mean? Fun challenge. He spits. You'll regret that by the second week. What does that mean? Look me in the eyes. Why the fuck would I do that? He shouts, trying to get out of the restraints. I promised Shadow I'd come home in one piece tonight. I can't have trauma the night before our fucking wedding, you freak. Oni. The door bursts open, and Dad barrels through, making a break for him too. There's a dart in his shoulder too. His quirk won't work to stop her. They thought ahead and brought extra. Look at me. She insists again, taking a taser out of her pocket. Shoving it into his side, she presses down and laughs while he convulses. The woman grabs the sides of his face and forces him to look her in the eyes. The clock hands in her eyes spin, and spin, and spin, and it draws Izuku in. He knows it's wrong, but he feels the need to go towards whatever this is. It's flowing backwards and forwards, and he doesn't care which way he's being pulled. The world stops spinning. He knows this sound. Izuku knows this sound very well. The All Might alarm clock I had in middle school. He reaches out and hits it. What a weird dream to have. Opening his eyes and waking up, Izuku sees the ceiling. Oh, I was brought to my apartment. He was patrolling last night. Right. Wait. He gets a good smell of the air. It's not burnt smelling. Did they clean it while I was at my shop or something? Maybe it's a honeymoon present, and he wasn't supposed to be brought back to his apartment. If it's morning, then that means I'm getting married today. Fuck. Izuku rushes out of bed and into the bathroom. I have to get ready. I can't piss fast enough. The vigilante vigorously washes his hands and starts brushing his teeth. Shit, Shadow's going to be so worried. Izuku freezes, feeling a bit of a fight or flight response at the sound of his own voice. Am I sick? I haven't sounded like this since, middle school. He looks up into the mirror to see how bad his hair is. And Izuku screams, we're almost out of eggs. Inko hums a bit as she searches around the fridge, making sure that's actually their last carton. In the background, she can hear Mikumo's alarm going off. Most days he'd calmly and slowly get out of bed. This morning he smacked his alarm clock off and rushed into the bathroom. Is he late for something? He doesn't have any morning activities to attend, right? Did I forget something? She hopes she didn't. She glances at her phone, wondering if she should change what she sent. Why would Hasashi ask to come over after all these years? Who knows, maybe he finally cares about his son. When breakfast is done, she sets the table and waits for Mikumo to finish getting ready. There's a chill down to her bones when she hears a scream of pure, primal fear come from the bathroom. The door is heard opening, followed by hurried footsteps. Just as she thinks he'll keep running, they seem to slow. Eventually, they stop altogether. No, she hears him muttering. What the fuck is happening? Excuse me. Fuck. Mikumo Midoriya, you know better than that. She sets down the plate in her hand and moves to talk to him. She meets his eyes, and her heart breaks. There is so much pain in those eyes. It breaks her. What happened? Who hurt her son? Why? Please. He cuts her off, voice shaking. His fists are balled tight enough to draw blood. Please don't say it. Don't say what, sweetie? She blinks. Don't call me that. I don't understand. His chest is rapidly rising and falling. He's starting to panic. He collapses into the floor, prompting Inko to rush to him. Get away from me, he shouts, guarding himself from her. Mikumo, she softly asks, still trying to get close. Sweetie, it's mommy. I'm here. It's me, she reassures. The more she speaks, the more it seems like Mikumo fears her. You can't be real. Why not? He's not panicking as much. There's something wrong here. That's not my son. There hasn't been a single stutter, not a single blush or downcast look. His hair is actually done for once. This isn't her son. He's swearing, and he looks like he's seen and learned far too much for a child this age to handle. This isn't her son. I'm sorry. The boy sobs, throwing himself onto her. He clings like he hasn't seen her in years, like she's going to disappear at any moment. This isn't Inko's son. And yet, she thinks he is. Rather than asking all these questions and overwhelming him again, she lets him cry. Just let it all out, sweetie. Half an hour passes. He's late for school. She managed to get the gist of the situation in between his sobs. This is Mikumo. This is her son, broken and beaten down throughout the years. He remembered what happened before waking up, saying that someone hit him with a time-related quirk. They sent a 22-year-old Mikumo back to the worst day of his life. He won't tell me why this is the worst day of his life. He won't tell me what my own future looks like. Every mention of my future haunts this poor child and sends him back into another fit. This is her son, and she's going to trust him. Do I really have to go to school? He wonders aloud, looking a bit drained. He lays on her lap, allowing her to play with his hair, despite it being done. Mikumo would have never let me do this. Honey, you know you have to. I'd love to let you stay home from school, but you've said it yourself. You have to at least try to maintain the same events you lived through. What was it called? The monarch effect. Butterfly. He softly corrects, sniffling a bit. Mikumo sits up, sitting at the table and eating breakfast. It's long since gone cold, but he doesn't seem to mind it. He seems happy to eat cold eggs. Ecstatic, even. Inko gets the feeling that she's no longer around in the future. You have to go to school, Mikumo. She reminds, realizing he's not eating as much anymore. His gaze is distant and calculating. Ah, so he's still just as analytical in the future. Poor Inko's heart drops when he picks up a knife and tears across his hand. Honey, what are you doing? Oh dear, maybe this is too much for him. It's not healing. He hums, that's no good. Mikumo, what are you talking about? I'm not quirkless, Mom. I have regeneration. The woman doesn't want to believe it, but she ponders how that could be. Is it more like my quirk? It'd have to be a mutation of some sort. Yeah, my body pulls itself back together. He seems to think a moment, as if this is secret information. Mikumo stares at his arms, like something's supposed to happen. Great, so I have neither or my quirks. I'm sorry. Neither. You'd have multiple? Yeah. Mom, a lot has happened in the future. I can see that, sweetie. You know what else I can see? That you're still stalling for time with me. I'm not going to ask why you are, but I know you're going to school. But Mom, Mikumo, I didn't raise you to talk back to authority, now did I? His eyes widen and he stifles a laugh. Like Inko just made a joke that she doesn't get to be let in on. Okay, yeah, respect authorities. Got it. Very convincing. She hums, kicking him out the door. His foot stops it. Wait, I realized something. You have your ring. Yes, dear, I always do. Mikumo rapidly reaches under his uniform and pulls out a necklace. Attached to it is. But that's not possible. Your father had this custom made for me. Okay, Hasashi is a lying piece of shit. I wouldn't put it past him to lie about the individuality of a ring. He quietly seethes. Language. Right, sorry. I had this around my neck when I was sent back. Wait, does that mean he checks his left hand, tearing up in relief upon seeing a ring? Is that? Today was supposed to be my wedding day. Mom, do you want to see him? He takes his phone out, tapping away. On the screen is a Google image of Shouto Todoroki, Endeavor's son. This is the ring that he picked for me when he proposed. Inko finds herself tearing up, listening to how fondly Mikumo speaks of this boy. He's in love. Isn't that so beautiful? It's beautiful. I'm really tearing up, aren't I? Mikumo, you seem so happy in the future. Please just do whatever you can to keep that joy. But the objection dies off quickly. He can't bring himself to say it. Go to school. As she closes the door again, he rushes through and hugs her tightly, giving her a kiss on the cheek. I love you, Mom. I love you so much and I miss you so much. He hugs her tighter before sprinting off to school. He misses me. I'm no longer alive by the time he's 22. Katsuki's sick and tired of these loud fuckers. They all get on his nerves. Somehow, the thing that pisses him off even more is the way shitty Deku hasn't shown up in class. The freak even comes in when he's sick. His perfect attendance is ruined. The class goes quiet when the door opens and Deku himself walks in. Except, he's not hunched over and closing in on himself like always. He stands tall and looks around for his seat. What? Did the fucker sleep in an extra 40 minutes and suddenly forget his seat? Midoriya, do you have a tardiness slip? The what? He blinks, actually making eye contact with the teacher. Shit, I forgot those are a thing. Do I have to go get one? The class collectively assesses Deku. He swore, he's not stuttering. His hair isn't a fucking mess, and he's just not Deku. No, you can sit down. The teacher even appears to be confused. Katsuki was going to get his answers. This can't be Deku. The boy sits down and gets his work out, raising a hand for once. It's not tucked into his side with his head down. It's up high, demanding to be answered. Yes, what page are we on and am I going to have to stay behind for notes? Page 262. And no, just do the worksheets and you should be fine. Gotcha, thanks, gotcha. Smoke fills the air, and Katsuki doesn't give a shit if it shows how pissed off he is. Deku's eyes don't even look up from his paper. He continues doing the work. He always looks up. His eyes always stay glued to my hands. He can smell the smoke. Katsuki rolls his eyes and finishes his work, waiting until the bell rings. It's study hall now. Deku keeps doing his work, not caring for anyone or anything around him. Katsuki stomps over and moves to attack, just to see what happens. Deku catches his hand and barely glances up. Not now, Kaken. I have a lot of shit to get done. He freezes. I am mean sorry, Kaken. That's not how he usually speaks. This is fake. Oh, Midori is feeling better. He's stuttering again. He hears some extras talking about. Yeah, I was hit W with a quirk. It makes me, act L like a D different person. As Deku says it, he keeps his eyes on Katsuki. There's no expression in those eyes. Is this a call for help or some shit? Bullshit. Katsuki seethes, low enough for only Deku to hear. Exactly. He confirms. Kaken, I need your help. What the fuck does that mean? Katsuki grabs him by the collar, and Deku doesn't fold. Instead, he places his hands on Katsuki's arm. One is heavily bandaged, and the other has a ring. That's an engagement ring. Please. With a sigh, he lets go of Deku and stands. Bathrooms, we can talk. He waltzes out the class, waiting down the hall for Deku to follow. When the nerd does leave the classroom, he promptly walks in the other direction, looking around. Other way, dickwad. Katsuki huffs. Right, I knew that. It's just been a long time since I've been in this hellhole. He mutters to himself, looking around in vague amazement. You were here yesterday. The scowl gives Katsuki the feeling that's not quite true. In the bathroom, Deku stares openly at Katsuki, mapping out his every feature. What the fuck is going on, Deku? He spits, eager for answers. Usually he wouldn't give this weak fucker the time of day, but there's either something seriously wrong going on, or this straight up ain't Deku. Or both. I was sent back in time to the worst day of my life. I was 22, it was the day before my wedding. You and I were just hanging out in my apartment, and I just had to go out and fuck it all up. No way. There's no way Deku and I would ever be friends. As fucking if. What would make you believe me? Any questions about the future? There's no way to prove. Katsuki, please. The look in Deku's eyes startles him. It's sincere and full of fear, not the permanently underlying fear that he always has. This is something bigger. He doesn't like it. I don't have my quirks yet. I don't have my strength yet. Hell, I barely have the muscle memory of my fighting skills. He processes the usual mumble Deku spouts, disregarding the small details like the lower tone of voice, how he speaks clearly, like it's just intel he's delivering. Quirks. You don't even have one, shitty Deku. Katsuki laughs, growing tired of this bullshit. If want a quirk so badly, take a swan dive off the roof and pray you'll be born with one in the next life. Deku says at the same time as him. Wait, does that mean he was serious? Oh my god, I didn't my quirk until the first time I died. Kaken, you're a genius. I knew I could count on you. Deku sprints out and down the hall. Katsuki takes off after the stupid fuck. There's no way this freak is going to take his words as literal advice. Looking around a bit more, Deku goes up the stairs. That's to the roof. Katsuki feels guilt bubbling up. He gets to the roof in time to watch Deku sprinting freely to the edge. Katsuki panics, using his quirk to propel him. The freak jumps off the building with no hesitation. Katsuki gets on his hands and knees, one arm holding him onto the ledge. Katsuki grabs Deku by the arm, catching him. The boy looks surprised. You have to let me go. Deku says calmly. Dying is how I activated my first quirk. You have to let me do this. I'd be a fucking murderer. You're jumping because of some stupid immature shit I said. Deku's expression twists a bit. You know, in the real timeline, when you said it, stop. I really considered it. I wondered what you'd do if I died. Would you feel anything at all? I can't kill you. You're a shitty worthless Deku, but that'd make me a villain. You were the villain of my childhood, Kaken. He firmly states. Katsuki hates it. What happened to him to give him this resolve? How did Deku get here? But, where I'm supposed to be now, you're one of my best friends again. You're like an annoying older brother. We're friends again. No, he and Deku were never friends. Let me go, Kaken. Katsuki hears him ask, but still tries pulling him up, holding on tighter. I believe you, but I'm not going to let you die. Why not? I have to. Now's not the time for you to try and be a fucking hero. Deku plants his feet on the side of the building, trying to pull out of Katsuki's grip. He knows that I'll fall too. He's making it so I have to let go. Katsuki's not that stupid. Katsuki lets go of the ledge, lurching forward. There's no change in Deku's expression. With his now free hand, Katsuki slams it into Deku's nose. The boy squeals in shock and curls his legs up and off the wall, allowing Katsuki to throw him over. Hey, Deku whines, wiping the blood off his face. Why now? Why of all times you don't want me to die? I've never wanted you to die. I say dumb shit and I do dumb shit, but that doesn't mean I mean that dumb shit, you dumb shit. Wow, lots of big words here. Shut the fuck up and just hear me out, Deku. He sighs, guarding the edge so Deku can't make a break for it. You said that you have multiple quirks. I don't know how that can be fucking possible, but how do you activate the other one? It's a long story. I got time. You pulled me out of class. No, fuck nugget, you pulled me out of class. Deku snorts. So, tell me the story. I ain't got all fucking day. And apparently, neither do you. No, when I say it's a long story, I mean it goes back like 200 years. It's so much. Katsuki rolls his eyes. Whatever, what's next? What happens after I tell you to take a swan dive? Well, you said that at the end of the day. So I went home and he cuts himself off. If Katsuki didn't know any better, he'd say Deku was about to be violently ill. Shit really goes down. Huh? How bad are we talking? He said the first time he dies is when he activates his quirk. That means he dies more than once. There's no other reason he'd say it like that. I've seen so many people die. Hell, even I've killed a few myself. What kind of hero are you? Katsuki shouts in disbelief. Actually, that was one thing you were actually right about. What the fuck are you talking about? You'll never be a hero. Deku, you say it like 3 times a day. Again, what the hell are you going on about? He's not serious. There's no way Deku doesn't become a hero. Katsuki knows there's no way he could be without a quirk. No way Deku could give up like that. We get into UA, and we get our licenses, but I never actually use it. I'm not a hero. I'm Japan's most wanted vigilante, and I think currently the most famous one in the world. Vigilante. Katsuki takes a deep breath and punches Deku in the face. The boy's head snaps back, but he doesn't make any indication of being in pain. Didn't think you'd be that mad. Shut the fuck up, we're leaving. Oh, is class almost over? I don't really remember the times anymore. He hums, wiping blood from his mouth now. We're leaving school. Kaken, weren't you always such a hard ass about attendance? Yeah, and you never swore. Things change. He seethes, grabbing the boy by his neatly done bangs and dragging him down to their class. Ignoring the questions of why Deku has blood on his face, they leave. What now? Deku asks. We're going to get your second quirk. Isn't it obvious? I can't. Kaken, please don't make me relive this again. He's shaking. There's something that this new Deku can't stand. If you don't want to relive it, why don't you just stop it? Deku simply blinks. Did you never consider that you're allowed to change things? He narrows his eyes at the nerd. Who said you have to relive everything except for you? The confusion fades as a look of joy comes onto his face. I can save her. Save who? Mom, what happens to Auntie and Co? Sometime in between me going to school and me arriving after school, Hasashi Midoriya sets my apartment on fire. He burns Mom alive, and I die too trying to save her. Uncle Hasashi did that. What the fuck? He hasn't been around in God knows how long. He's a deadbeat. So, almighty vigilante. What's the fucking plan? So, Kaken wasn't entirely stoked about breaking into the police station, even if Izuku has every vent mapped out mentally. What do you need quirk suppressants for? Just knock the old man out. Katsuki asks through the phone, hiding outside in the bushes while Izuku shimmies through a vent. To stop him from using his quirk, he can still set the fire. That's what we need to stop. Although, I wouldn't put it past him to have a gun with him again too. He sincerely hates this. Another part of my life involving complex storylines? Once at Tsukachi's office, he listens for a minute, deciding it empty. He removes the vent and drops down slowly, freezing when he sees the reflection in the window. Dad. He drops to the floor and tackles Eraserhead in a hug. Dad. Tsukachi questions with a worried expression. It must be ringing true for him. I have no children. The man huffs. Not yet. Oh, I'm so fucking glad to see you. I'm not going to cry. Who are? Tsukachi, I need to borrow quirk suppressants. I know I'm a literal child, but I know your quirk. I'm a time traveler and I'm trying to stop someone from dying. My quirk may be saying you're telling the truth, but you're right. You're a child. Well, maybe in this timeline he'll get grays earlier too. I don't have time for this. Let me use your computer. He scurries over to the laptop, answering the security question with ease and printing out the keycard he'd need to get access to the suppressants. How did you just do that? Because a few years from now, I broke into your office to get information from your laptop and I know Toshinori, so his name was easy to guess. You broke the law in front of a pro hero in law enforcement. Dad questions. In less than a year from now, I become the biggest vigilante in Japan's history. True. Tsukachi sighs. Where are your parents? Why would they allow this? Well, I become a vigilante after my mother is murdered by my father and All Might mentally breaks me. So, I'm kind of parentless and act of my own accord until you and Mike adopt me. Dad freezes. Oh fuck. He breathes, if he knows Hasashi and I are. Then, Dad, I can actually use your quirk better than the suppressants. Please, just help me save my mom. Shouta thinks back to the relief in this kid's eyes upon seeing him. How he keeps calling Shouta Dad and refers to his husband. His husband who is not publicly known to be his husband. The kid explains everything after getting his friend. Everything. This boy is going to be one of his sons. Shouta can't be a father. He can't let this kid go through all the pain he so easily speaks of. The emptiness in his eyes when he talks about these horrific events. So, are we going to get a name for you or what? Shouta asks, heading down to next destination. My vigilante name is Oni. I literally didn't ask for that one. Shouta doesn't know what it is, but dealing with this kid feels like he's going to get grays. That he'll get on his nerves the whole time and just annoy the hell out of him. An actual name. Oh, sorry, I'm Izuku Midoriya. You just call me Izuku. He sees how serious Midoriya is about that. So why is his friend staring at him like that? The blonde reaches out and grabs a fistful of Midoriya's hair. Midoriya simply makes a confused face. How high is his pain tolerance? Your name is fucking Makumo Midoriya. Where the fuck is Izuku coming from? The boy shouts. Oh yeah, He hums, not answering the question at first. In the future, I no longer use Mikumo. When I died, I changed it to help keep Eraserhead and Tsukachi from getting a lead on me. So he does know me. It'd be a neat trick to call him dad and never give any indication of knowing who he is. Shouta decides he'll trust this brat. How did I get mixed up in time travel? I live by logic, and time travel is on the opposite end of that spectrum. Midoriya falters in his step, ever so slightly. Shouta looks up and sees the pure dread on his face, gone in seconds. Does he think something's going to happen? Fucking spit it out already, Deku. The boy, Bakugo, snarls. I remembered that right before Dad came to save me. The woman who used her quirk said I'd never escape this. What's described was a time loop, me going around in circles becoming more and more devoid of hope. He mumbles a bit, that most people only end the cycle after killing themselves. Boy, but if you have regeneration, what does that mean? You were going to off yourself earlier to activate your quirk. You could have fucked it all up and died for real. I'm willing to make that risk. Don't make that risk. A child should never be so willing to put their life on the line. They approach the building he lives in, and Midoriya promptly runs and grabs a tree, jumping onto the building and climbing to the roof. I guess I'm chopped fucking liver, Deku. Bakugo sighs, getting a head start of going and climbing up the stairs. When Bakugo's in the building, there's a sound that haunts Shouta, a gunshot. The hero and detective freeze, slowly looking to each other in horror. He took my gun, Tsukachi confirms after checking. Shit, he spits, getting to the roof the same way Midoriya did. Shit. On the rooftop lays the body of a child who shot himself through the forehead. Shouta rushes in to get vitals, see if he's alive, anything. He really is prepared to risk it all. He cradles this child in his arms. No signs of life from him. He looks into those lifeless eyes and feels a strange sense of déjà vu. He closes his eyes and he's in a forest. This boy is in his lap, another dead body in a heap a few feet away. Midoriya has a lot of scarring on his face already. When Shouta opens his eyes, he's back on the roof. Tsukachi bursts in through the door and Bakugo is close behind. Deku, the fuck did he do? Bakugo yells. He looks like he'll throw up, so Tsukachi makes him look away. Shouta looks down again at the sight of movement. His hands are moving, and his eyes are on Bakugo. Slowly, he lifts his hand, far too shaky, and signs. I'm okay. Bakugo translates angrily, just need to heal. Bullet in head. Midoriya waits a minute, slowly reaching behind Shouta and stealing a knife. How the hell did you do that when you're like this? Shouta hates that he wasn't fast enough. He was caught off guard. He restrains Midoriya when the boy attempts to cut the bullet out of himself. Stop, I'll find forceps or something. Tsukachi announces, running off. They weren't very happy with his stunt, but it worked. Izuku's looking over his wound from this morning, able to fully move his hand. Dad keeps staring at him with a pained look. Why? It's not like he remembers anything, right? Wait, Dad, you know something. He accuses. What happened? Your body was there in my arms. I closed my eyes and I was suddenly in a forest. You were shot in the head too. You remembered an event that hasn't happened yet. He squawks, wondering that could mean. Okay, since we're on a time crunch, I'll figure that out later. Izuku. Dad grabs him by the shirt and pulls him close. Please don't do anything stupid like that again. If we save my mom. He starts, unsure how to say it. Then we'll never be your dads, I know. Dad nods. But you can have the three of us, you know? I don't know you, except for the fact that you're probably a brat and pain in the ass, but I know you're supposed to be my son. You have another one. We need to get Toshi. After. He was too late. Izuku fucked up and didn't account for other possibilities. Mom was shot, Dad was shot, Tsukachi was shot, and even Kaken was. Hasashi got away. He watched it all. He heard it all. He scrubs the blood and brain matter off his face. Izuku thought he was getting somewhere on the first time around, that he could outsmart this and be done with it. It's all wrong. The pain shouts from the adults, the fear in Kaken's eyes, the sound of their bodies hitting the ground, still louder than the rest of the gunshots. Izuku's down too, but not dead yet, but he knows it's coming. What happens if I die again? Will I still be stuck here? No. She said they'd have to kill themselves. She phrased it like that on purpose. That woman could have said they just had to die. So, what happens if Izuku kills himself a second time? Does he start the cycle over, finding a sick loophole in her quirk? Does it all just end? Would he wake up back in that warehouse, free of her quirk? That's a 1 in 3 chance of really fucking this up. He's willing to take it. Izuku's still in the hall, unable to move his legs. The adults are dead. Kaken's still breathing, but he's not going to last long either. There's no way he can be helped or saved. Deku, Kaken wheezes, teeth stained red. If you go back in and start this shit over, get me to believe you sooner. He's not pissed off at me. Why isn't he mad? How? Tell me something only you would know. Izuku begs, fearing that the silence he gets in response means he was too late. 2 things. In elementary school there was this kid named Kirishima. I had the biggest crush on that fucker until he moved schools. Oh my god. His throat burns. His eyes water. You're together in the future, Kaken. There's a sincere smile, until it fades. Until it's serious and pained. I was jealous of you, Kaken. You don't have any fucking time to be vague. He snaps, tears spilling out of his eyes and mixing with the blood. He was so used to being the one dying and gravely injured, he never considered how terrifying it is to watch it. Is this how Dad felt? How Shadow and Toshi feel at least once a month? What kind of monster am I? You always made me feel like the villain. Like stupid quirkless Deku could still show up and beat me. I wanted to scare it out of you, because defeating you made me feel stronger. Now look at us. Izuku sobs. Do whatever it is you're planning. I don't want you seeing me like this. I'm going to save everyone. Izuku drags himself across the floor towards Tsukachi's body. He grabs the gun and raises it with a shaky hand. There's a thud behind him. Katsuki Bakugo is deceased. Closing his eyes, Izuku pulls the trigger. He knows this sound. Izuku knows this sound very well. The all-might alarm clock I had in middle school. He reaches out and hits it. What a weird dream to have. Opening his eyes and waking up, Izuku sees the ceiling. Fuck. He shoots up, looking around quickly. It worked. It started the loop over again. That only means I have one extra shot to die each time. Great. A limit to his bullshit, just what he needed. He scrambles to get ready and get a head start to school. Mom asks him if he's alright, seeing as he flinches every time she says Makumo. I'm going to save you. If this woman threw him back in time, there's no way in hell he's not giving this up. He idly wonders if she would attend the wedding if he did this right. Of course she would. Honey, do you want more eggs? You scarfed them down fairly quick. She asks, hand on his shoulder. No thank you, Mom. Hey, can you pick me up after school? I want to take you out to eat. He offers, wondering if Izuku even had enough money at this age. I could probably just steal some from criminals if I don't have enough. Desperate times. Actually, maybe Kachen would help. Sure, sweetie. What's the special occasion? Izuku knows that look. Mom knows something's up. I guess it's pretty hard to know myself more than my mom. Huh. He sighs. Listen, Mom, stuff happened. You're going to have to trust me. Please just be at the school a little before we get out. She pauses, staring at her son. Her mouth is in a tight line until it softens with a small exhale. Of course, Makumo. Thanks, Mom. He finishes getting ready for school, ready to give her some more to follow. Don't let anyone follow you. Call me the moment you think you're being followed. The moment you sense something wrong. Use your quirk if you have to. Her eyes widen. Oh God, that's disappointment. You know quirk use is illegal? Yeah, I've done my fair share of law-breaking, Mom. No time to explain. Just, he considers how he wants to phrase it. I've learned that sometimes working outside of the law is best. It hasn't really let me down yet. Neither will I then. She smiles gently. He wants to take a picture. Izuku wants anything to make moments like this last. He's sacrificing the small times he gets with her now in order to allow his future to be full of them. He gets to class early, taking out a notebook and paper. Okay, what do I know so far? Most importantly, if Izuku kills himself a second time, it resets the loop. It's a loophole in the woman's quirk because of his. If he didn't have a healing quirk, he would have just died like the others. That means another thing. This is real. This isn't some elaborate illusion. Time is looping and he's stuck in a cycle. The question is now, where in time is it looping? If Eraserhead could remember the events of that one time Hasashi shot me, that means we aren't fully going back in time. Or is it because he himself lived through it? It technically already happened in a timeline. That raises a few more questions. He's slapped on the back of his head harshly. Oi, Deku, quit your yapping. Kaken laughs. Izuku's aware of his staring. How this boy is laughing and mocking him, as if he wasn't just killed because of him. Oh, this is going to mess Izuku up, isn't it? Nerd, cat got your tongue. The fuck is wrong with you? I need your help, Kaken. He blurts out. It's only them in the classroom. Kaken gets here early. That's what he was counting on. Why would I? When you were in elementary school, you have a crush on Ijiru Kirishima. Kaken blinks. What? I'm stuck in a time travel loop, Kaken. In the last loop you said to tell you something you've never told anyone before to get you to believe me. Kaken pulls a chair up to his desk, mumbling about never knowing the boy's first name. Is that why you're not cowering like usual? No stutter. No useless Deku. I have to figure some stuff out. And I'll need your help. Izuku reaches up and snaps his own neck. He sees Katsuki starting to object but never processes any sound. When he comes to, he's punched in the face. What the fuck was that? I had to die in order to activate my quirk, regeneration. You have a quirk. He slowly repeats. Yeah, I can tell this will get old pretty fast. What will? Having to explain everything to everyone. Over and over again, apparently. Either that or do something to trigger memories the same way he did to Dad. All he knows is that there's probably going to be several loops before he gets somewhere. Slowly, he retells Kaken everything. He notices repeats in dialogue, same reactions. It scares him to think that there could possibly be a finite amount of responses someone can give. So, how could Dad remember the events that haven't happened yet? He finally asks, giving Kaken enough information to answer on his own. The blonde sits quietly, looking over Izuku's notes before drawing his own diagram. This is your timeline. And whatever the fuck happened to you happens like normal. He makes an X on the line. This is when that chick zaps you with her quirk, sending you into this loop. As far as I know, she never said that you go back to this day in your timeline. She just says you go back in general. He extends sideways and away from the timeline, drawing some looping circles. These are the loops. They look the same but they're separate. So that means it doesn't have to be a time travel quirk at all. It can be a pocket dimension stemming from that point where you just so happen to be in a time loop. Her dimension, her laws. That includes time, too. Kaken, you genius. He draws a bit more, lines extending from the loops. Who's to say once you fuck up and go back, that timeline ceases to exist just because you die? It could create a full timeline, life going on after whatever the fuck you did. The possibilities are endless. Why didn't I think of that? He breathes in relief, seeing a few kids filter in through the door. Isn't it fucking obvious? Kaken chuckles lowly, rolling his eyes when Izuku doesn't follow. She sent you back to the worst day of your life. That knowledge alone is going to fuck you up. And with whatever happened already, you're mentally off your game. Whatever game a shitty Deku like you could have. That sounds possible. Wait, so if we're right, then it doesn't technically matter what I do here. My timeline would still be the same no matter what I do in this set of timelines. I don't fucking know. There's no way to know unless you do shit about it. It's just a matter of if you can get out of it. No, it's a matter of if I can save everyone. Once I know I can, then I can repeat that winning loop until I figure out how to get out of here. Deku, the voice sounds worried. It's not normal, especially not for this version of Katsuki Bakugo. There's a lot of trust this Kaken is putting into Izuku, considering that at this age Katsuki probably wanted him dead. Yeah, it'd drive you insane. No one's mind is fit to handle seeing family and friends get killed over and over again. But if I can save. Kaken stands up and grabs Izuku, dragging him outside and beating him into the ground. He doesn't fight back. Kaken doesn't know anything besides yelling and violence right now. He's trying his best. Don't you get it? He seethes, kicking Izuku in the ribs a final time. Katsuki eyes him when he realizes Izuku took it like it was nothing. We're still people. You can't just kill people and let us die to figure out what works and what doesn't. If the timeline does go on after you leave it, we're fucking dead. Izuku feels a bit of bile coming up. I hope not. God please, I hope not. That means there's already a timeline where we're all dead and nothing ever happens. So what do you suggest? Spend this timeline gathering information, like you did the last one. You haven't completed a full week, right? Right. You don't know what happens exactly when the week is up. Find that out, at least. A full week. It can't be that bad. Katsuki watches Deku's every move. He believes what he said about being a time traveler, that he's a vigilante in the future, and that Katsuki was right about him never becoming a hero. When asked what the worst things Deku has done, the boy got a bit shifty. No direct answer. Hell, he wouldn't even look Katsuki in the eye. The question was to find out just how likely it is for Deku to go through with letting people die across timelines just to learn what happened. Katsuki knows he only has a week to persuade him. Why is he even doing this? He fucking hates Deku. Then again, he has to admit he likes this Deku a lot more than who he was. There's so many questions about the future Deku won't answer. Whether that's to protect Katsuki from a possible paradox, or because it's simply just that bad, he doesn't know. Nerd won't even tell me if I beat All Might and become the top hero. Throughout class, it seems Deku's hyper-aware of every movement, every little sound. His eyes dart around the classroom, especially on the exits. What the hell happened to him? His legs bounce, unable to keep still. It annoys the fuck out of Katsuki too, but it's better than his mumbling. Just yesterday Deku was cowering in his presence, flinching from anyone who looked at him. He'd mumble forever and even the teacher would sigh. The Deku sitting in this class looks like he's a caged animal, that just by being stuck in class he's being tightly wound up with no room to spin free. The nerd stands up abruptly, hands grabbing at the hair on the left side of his face. Shitty Deku mumbles something about it being in the way, how he's not used to it. In a drawer from the back of the class he takes scissors and waddles over to the trash can. Classmates joke about how he's lost it. Neatly parting his hair off to the side, he grabs a handful of his hair and cuts it. He throws each tuft in the trash can. Oi, Deku, Katsuki barks, getting his attention. The hell are you doing? Was no one going to tell me how fucking messy my hair was back then? He chuckles tiredly, looking away when classmates says what back then means. Sorry, I'll behave. My hair was just annoying me. Are you feeling all right, Midoriya? The teacher asks in a scarily calm voice. He's scared of setting him off. Yes. Izuku and Kaken are walking down the halls together, ready to get mom and figure out how to keep her safe. They ate lunch together, which prompted a lot of questions from people. Kaken said something about liking Izuku better than the old one. Does it sting to hear? Not as much as he thought, but it hurts nonetheless. Then again, I like myself better now too. They meet Mom outside, who looks between the two with suspicion. Hey auntie, Kaken greets, trying to maintain some form of respect. Katsuki, it's good to see you. She hugs him and plants a kiss on his cheek. Did anyone follow you? He blurts out. Not that I can think of, no. Dear, are you going to tell me what this is all about? She asks, knowing her smile alone could probably get him to spill everything. Imagine her pain knowing Hasashi's the one doing this. I can't, Mom. Your life is in danger and you're going to have to trust me. I do, sweetie, it's just, I don't know how to say this, but your father wants to come over and talk. Tell Hasashi to meet you at the apartment, make him go there. Hasashi, she questions his use of a first name. Let's go get food. The plan is to have Kaken guard her in a public area. They shouldn't be able to kill her there. Then he has to find All Might and convince him to give up some information, or if he's lucky, his quirk. Kaken, please. Yeah, I'm pretty fucking capable, don't you think? The boy sneers. Yeah, I trust you. Kaken's expression softens as he says it. It's disbelief. It's pain. This Kaken will probably never know what they go through together when they're older. Whatever. He sighs, walking with them to the ramen shop. The shop isn't too far from where that guy slit my throat in my timeline. I just have to wait and seem like a proper hostage. He finds the spot where it all happened. He can see the morgue from here. Izuku idly wonders if he'll end up there again in one of these loops. He leans against the wall and closes his eyes, humming. Hey kid, sorry to interrupt your singing, but I need a suitable hostage. I'm sure you won't mind. The same man from all those years ago threatens, hands settling around his neck. Izuku does his best to come off as scared. I remember being terrified of this guy. This dude was really part of the worst day of my life. What was it he said in response back then? I beg of you, please let me go. He tries. I don't think it'd be worth it. Don't try and be a hero, kid. I just need a hostage so I can get the money I need to live a good life. Were these his exact words then too? They stand under the very same underpass he met All Might. What did I say next? What, cat got your? Have no fear. The ground below yells. The concrete shakes as the sewer cap comes off. For a split second, the man moves the blade. Izuku slyly sticks a hand in between the blade and his throat. Oh wow, he pretends, sounding completely sarcastic. The man holding him hostage gawks at Izuku. Because I am here. Don't come any closer. The man presses the knife harder into what he thinks is the child's neck, but not enough to fully cut. I have demands. I remember this. Even with him acting differently, their dialogue is almost the same. To hold a child hostage. Are you crazy? All Might asks with a serious tone. No matter. He underestimated how scared the criminal is. The man's arm jerks toward them, cutting into Izuku's hand. Okay, I think I'll take it from here. Izuku yawns, taking the knife and tossing it towards All Might. He drops down and yanks up on the man's shin, twisting after his head hits the concrete. When the man is flat on his belly, Izuku stands on him. Long time no see, All Might. That was incredible, young man. Yagi praises, standing proudly. Even now, Izuku can see him puffing out his chest to overcompensate for his limit. It's been years since Izuku's seen this form. It's nostalgic, but he doesn't know if it's in a good way. With a swift movement, he knocks the criminal unconscious. All Might, we need to talk. He begins, aware that Yagi will probably try to leave due to his limit. Got a question, young fan? Drop the act. I need you, not the hero persona. Can we go somewhere private? It'd be better for you than me if we did. He starts explaining. Well, young man, I must take this man to the station and fill out the proper paperwork for him. Then, I have to. Yagi, please. The boy gave off the illusion that he was wise beyond his years. The moment Toshinori emerged from the sewer, he knew he never had to save this kid. The look on the boy's face was I can save myself. I'm just choosing not to, and Toshinori wanted to know what that reason was. All of this young man's movements were practiced and planned out. He knew the man would slit his throat that soon. Toshinori tried not to gaze at the calm way he dealt with his hand being cut that deep. Yagi, please. The voice is broken and pleading. This child calls him by his name, something few people have ever known. If his life wasn't already in danger, surely this knowledge would put him in it. What did you call me? My name is Izuku Midoriya, and I need your help. They walked to Toshinori's new apartment, and it felt as though Midoriya led him most of the way there. I have to relearn the area. Did young Midoriya know where he lived already? Give me your keys. Midoriya expectantly holds a hand out. Curious, Toshinori does as told. Up at his apartment, Midoriya opens the door for him with ease, something Toshinori's struggled with since moving in. The key turns left, you keep turning it right. He explains, like he's said it 1,000,000 times. Right, you can deflate, too. Midoriya doesn't even look at him as he says it. Who is this kid? Toshinori lets go of his muscle form, wiping some of the blood from his mouth. I have a lot of questions for you. I know, I have a lot to ask of you. Very well, I'll make some tea. Thanks. Midoriya wanders around the living room, looking at the lack of pictures. Instead of frowning, his mouth is aligned. It's neutral. So, you know my name. Toshinori starts, handing the boy a cup. Toshinori Yagi, yeah. You may start explaining everything you need. I'll listen to you. The boy tells the story of becoming a vigilante, stating that Toshinori's words have helped caused him to go down that path. He explains that he was sent back into a time loop from the age 22. At 22, All Might is no more. It's just Toshinori Yagi, a single father to a little girl. Izuku says that this apartment grows to be full of pictures, whether it's him and the child, fellow teachers and former UA students. It sounds like Toshinori, despite all the tragedy, gets a happy ending. I need you to give me the quirk. Well, that's a bit more unexpected. Excuse me. In the wake of the nightmare at Kamino, you give me one for all and I defeat all for one. I'm the ninth holder, Yagi. There's no way he'd know this if he weren't the ninth holder, but he's still reluctant to believe this boy. Didn't you say I traumatized you into wanting nothing to do with me? You were desperate. I was desperate. People were dying and that included you. I took the quirk so it wouldn't die with you. So you came all this way to ask for it, knowing it must be given willingly. Yes, then you know why I can't give it to you. At that, Midoriya's face turned sour. Oh, so he does know. I have a regeneration quirk. My limbs were always fine. He cuts himself off. Someone allowed this child to just blow his limbs up whenever he wanted. No. Build the proper vessel and then we'll. I don't have time. Midoriya shouts, pulling at his hair. I have a week, 7 days and it all resets. It's a loop. How many times has it been? This is the second loop, he says with certainty. Toshinori fears if it really is a loop, this voice will lose its conviction. You've lived at least 7 days in this loop, then? The boy's eyes fall to the floor. No, I died before I could get to a full week. Then wait a full week and see what happens. Toshinori wants to scold Midoriya for the eye roll he gets in response. That's what Kaken said too. He sighs, throwing his hands up. Well, that is the most logical course of action. What's the issue with it? Toshinori kindly asks, observing Midoriya's leg bouncing in his chair, the twitching of his hands and huffing of breath. You're impatient. Oh, course I'm impatient. He growls out, stomping his foot. I've gone my whole fucking life getting shit done at the pace that I want it done. And suddenly I have to factor in time. Well, fuck time. I shouldn't have to wait. People have to be saved now. The room grows silent, as Toshinori wonders what he could possibly say. There's the faintest of sounds, a sniffle, so quiet that if Toshinori breathed at the same time, he surely would have covered it. Oh, you poor thing. It breaks his heart, realizing that he's looking at his younger self when he sees this boy. Stop looking at me like that. Midoriya seethes, wiping at his nose, hiding behind his elbow. The crack in his voice shatters his heart. He can see the shaking of Midoriya's shoulders. Stop looking at me like that. It's all right. No, it's not. None of this is okay. It appears the weight of what he's working with is starting to set in. Vaguely, Toshinori wonders how many times he and this kid will have this very same exchange. For Midoriya's sanity, he hopes it's few. Silence yet again falls, and Toshinori decides to let Midoriya cry however much he needs. I think he was so worried about saving everyone, he put off considering the state of his own health. He's going to break and I won't be able to save him. I won't know enough to save him. Something stirs in Toshinori. He looks at the boy, seeing Sun hit him from behind. The curtains are closed. He swears he can see an ear piercing that's not there, but green suit he doesn't have. The world closes in on him once more, giving him a spotlight he demands. In the back of his mind, he can hear this scarred child calling him a skeletal disappointment of a human being. Oh, I remember. What? He sniffs, looking up. There's a glimmer of hope in his eyes and God Toshinori hopes it'll remain. It's vague, but I become a teacher at UA, and I give you an what's the name? Young Bakugo your exam. Yes, Izuku jumps to his feet. This proves that there is a way to trigger memories. He begins mumbling to himself. This proves that my life did already happen, and that this isn't actually going back in time. If it's not going back in time, then what is it? Toshinori doesn't think time works like that. As sideways in time. Yeah, Toshinori definitely doesn't think time works like that. Izuku and Yagi walk back to the restaurant. He's eager to spend more time with Mom, even if it's a few minutes here and there. In the end, Yagi gave him the hair. With it, he proposed a theory. It might work. It'd have to wait until the next loop to find out. Izuku thinks it could work, but only if the sideways time theory is true enough. In my timeline, that I've already lived through, All Might has already given me consent to his quirk. Therefore, I should be able to take it. It's a stupid loophole, but Izuku doesn't have much left when it comes to hoping for trump cards. The only thing Yagi really warned of was using the quirk itself. Apparently when I got the quirk at Kamino, I was accustomed to using my regeneration. Right now, my body isn't used to using or having a quirk at all. There was a chance of unwanted quirk use, as Toshinori put it, like Shadow whenever he gets flustered. The fine they had to pay when Izuku said yes to the proposal was incredible. Who knew Shadow could catch the curtains on fire that fast? Suddenly remembering his life with Shadow makes him sad. He looks at the engagement ring, hoping it'd cheer him up. It's fading. It's fading. It's see-through, like he could look away any second and it'd be gone forever. That Shadow would be gone forever. I'm going to fucking puke. He keeps it down, somehow, changing his focus to seeing Mom and Kaken. The ramen place is just around the corner. Should I get a beef bowl? I know Yagi would probably order that. Maybe he'll. After all, Izuku does end up puking. There's glass on the pavement. There's glass in the puddles outside. Bullet casings too. There's litter everywhere. They all glisten in the afternoon light, but some still shine brighter than others. Tooth chippings, slick with saliva and blood. How did they get so far out into the road? How much force would someone need to shatter them so small? Izuku almost feels tempted to pick one up and inspect. He hears nothing but static. No, that's one for all. It sparks around him, begging him to do something, anything. There's nothing obvious yet. No body. No agonized screaming to indicate what's going on inside the shop. His feet move. I don't want to see. His feet move. I can't see them like that again. His feet move. Please, don't let me do this again. His feet move. There's a finger outside the ground. His feet move. He almost moves to pick it up, as if he could tell who it belongs to. His feet move. Is there even a point in entering through the door? His feet move. Why would he, when there's an entrance made through the shattered window where they sat? His feet move. He climbs in, onto the red table. His feet move. It wasn't red before, it was a pristine white. His feet move. His eyes drift down into the seats. His feet stay firmly planted where he stands. There's glass on the pavement. There's glass in the puddles outside. Bullet casings too. There's litter everywhere. They all glisten in the afternoon light, but some still shine brighter than others. Tooth chippings, slick with saliva and blood. How did they get so far out into the road? How much force would someone need to shatter them so small? Izuku almost feels tempted to pick one up and inspect. He hears nothing but static. No, that's one for all. It sparks around him, begging him to do something, anything. There's nothing obvious yet. No body. No agonized screaming to indicate what's going on inside the shop. His feet move. I don't want to see. His feet move. I can't see them like that again. His feet move. Please, don't let me do this again. His feet move. There's a finger outside the ground. His feet move. He almost moves to pick it up, as if he could tell who it belongs to. His feet move. Is there even a point in entering through the door? His feet move. Why would he, when there's an entrance made through the shattered window where they sat? His feet move. He climbs in, onto the red table. His feet move. It wasn't red before, it was a pristine white. His feet move. His eyes drift down into the seats. His feet stay firmly planted where he stands. Countless bodies take up space. Tables are overturned. Lights and chairs are broken. Why? What happened? What a stupid question. There's a few napkins on the table where they sat. Izuku can see the faint scribbles in pen. It's Kaken's handwriting. By the looks of it, he was making even more notes on Izuku's situation. The ink is too runny to make most of it out, though. Whether it's from the blood splatter or the ramen broth, he can't tell. Kaken's hair is dyed red where his body lays. His arms are covered in wounds. His hands are non-existent. So, the finger down the road must have belonged to Kaken? How did it get so far? Why is he even wondering that? It doesn't matter. He probably tried using his quirk, and they stopped him. The question is, where's Mom? Pacing around the restaurant, he can't spot green hair. There's none to be seen. Was she taken? Was she obliterated? Was her head stolen as a sick token? Sweetie. The voice is muffled. Under a light fixture and table. She must have tried to take cover, only for them to aim high instead. He races over, not noticing the crackle of power humming wildly beneath his skin. Mom, you're alive, he asks, still a little hopeful. A sick part of him thinks that Kaken dying might be okay. He's had his share of years with the boy. He can have some with his mom. Like they're things, toys he can play with and switch out whenever he grows bored. That's disgusting. He wants to slap himself, tear himself apart for a selfish thought like that. A shaky hand reaches through the rubble. He moves to hold on. Energy thrums under his skin. Panic doesn't allow him to realize it's far too much. Toshinori wasn't fast enough. He attempted to reach out and grab Midoriya, not expecting the poor kid to use one for all so easily and flee towards the calamity. Did Midoriya even notice his limbs shredding apart with every step he took? Bursts of energy tore his being apart, healing just enough for him to keep going. The sight of his half-sewn flesh flying back in the wind of his speed makes Toshinori feel vaguely sick, like the chance of him tripping on his own arteries and musculature could make the situation any worse than it is. Then again, it's clear Midoriya had no idea how fast he was moving. Toshinori's willing to bet that time moved painfully slow for him. It always does, when the life of a loved one is at stake. Not that Toshinori knows that feeling too well anymore. He sprints towards the shop he climbed into, careful to be respectful and not trample any of the remains in the street. It must have been a drive-by. Gun violence this bad in Japan. Why? Of all the ways to assassinate someone, why would they mow down an entire group of people? What was there to prove in making sure Izuku Midoriya doesn't survive? With the story Midoriya recalls, there was never a team of gunmen. It was a fire. Why would someone with a fire quirk go through the trouble of having this sort of backup? Midoriya, he cuts himself off as he enters the building. The door doesn't open fully, unless he pushes the body out from under it. Erratic breathing is the only sound that fills the moist air. No, Toshinori hears dripping. Drip, drop, drip, drip, drop. He hates that he wants to look away from the boy to find the incessant source of dripping. It's probably the blood that's made it to the ceilings. It always is. That, or it's the blood spilling over the countertops and onto the floor. Though, Toshinori would never find the source. It's only because his eyes are glued to the bloodied boy who's surrounded by green light. He clutches an arm, eyes glossy and wide. Before him is a stained pile of debris. The debris is crying. It's okay, baby, you didn't mean it. The pile soothes. Any solace falls of deaf ears. I did it. Midoriya mumbles, clutching the arm. There's a ring on the end of it, matching his necklace. I did this to you. He's breaking. No, Makumo, bad people did this to me. You're not a bad person. You made a mistake, but you tried to save me. The voice sounds motherly. She sounds like she's pushing back her fear of death in order to bring her child peace. It reminds him of Nana. Mom, he whimpers, forehead leaning against some of the wood. There's a cough from the heap. Blood hits Midoriya's face from it. Toshinori's eyes finally wander away, unsure what to do. Beside his feet rests a familiar head of hair. Toshinori feels bile coming up his throat. The number one hero should be used to sights like these. He wasn't even my student yet and I've failed them. Faint sirens can be heard. Toshinori doubts Midoriya called the police. Were there any witnesses? Are they in harm now too? It's the last time Toshinori will ever hear Izuku Midoriya's voice. Not the last time her son will, however. He has a long way to go. The sirens are louder. As Midoriya makes his goodbyes, Toshinori goes through and checks if there are any survivors. They made sure no one lived. What kind of monster would do this? Go through this much to kill their wife? I'm so sorry for your loss, young Midoriya, but I remember you and the police are not very friendly with each other. I suggest we leave while we can. Midoriya is already out the door. Toshinori turns, screaming and yelling at himself to power up one for all. He's too slow. He's useless. The number one hero is useless. Anything coming towards the face causes one to reflexively shut their eyes tight. This specific situation is a mix of that. And to keep from witnessing the ambulance hit Midoriya head on. Blood covers Toshinori. Part of his leg hits him as well. His bones crack, reminiscent of thunder. It's fitting, considering how his body handles one for all. With a screech, the vehicle stops. Driver and coworker fumbling with the doors to get out and see if they slaughtered a child. It's been a week. Toshinori checks up every day, finding that Izuku Midoriya has yet to regenerate. So, it's true. One Midoriya dies a second time, he's dead. His quirk can only abuse that loophole one per cycle. The scariest thing is, life goes on without him. Time goes on after he's dead, meaning there's already 2 timelines where Izuku Midoriya and several others have died. There's real-life consequences to his actions. The worst part is, there is no conceivable way Toshinori would ever be able to tell Midoriya this information. He knows this sound. Izuku knows this sound very well. The all-might alarm clock ahead in middle school. He reaches out and hits it. What a weird dream to have. Opening his eyes and sitting up, Izuku sees the ceiling. The ceiling is vast and white. It begins to blur as he inhales deeply, allowing himself to turn and sob into his pillow a moment. Is he even allowed to have moments like these? Aren't they selfish? There's so much shit he has to get done and he's wasting time by crying. Emotions can wait. His health can wait. Rubbing at his eyes, he holds his hands up, taking in the sight of the ring, no longer fading. There's no blood on his skin. No splinters from trying to pry Mom out after he accidentally ripped off her arm. Izuku tries to relax and not blame himself. She was already bleeding out. It's not his fault she died. It's only his fault that she died faster. You know what? This isn't helping. Pushing himself out of bed, he gets notebook 14 out. It's yet again blank and unused. He goes through and writes all he did in the last loop. Would a routine help or ruin his sanity? Sweetie, breakfast. He jumps at the sound of Mom's voice. He wants to sob all over again. I'm coming. He calls loud enough for her to hear. Looking around his room, he needs a plan. If I stay home and save her here, I don't have to worry about Kaken or any bystanders. I can get myself killed a first time by saving Mom. He has nothing against being a human shield. The only issue is, what does he do if Hasashi doesn't see their bodies in the morgue? Izuku has an idea for that too, but it'd haunt him for the rest of his life. He moves into the bathroom, eager to find something that'll make him sick. He considers what wouldn't kill him, or make mom take him to a hospital if the effects are bad enough. When he washes his hands, he looks up into the mirror and freezes. His reflection is fuzzy, soft and fleeting, like he himself can disappear from this world at any moment. Is he already too late? Did he take too long getting out of bed and mess up the loop? A pathetic part of him wonders if he can just end the loop by force and get a fresh start, just in case. Izuku washes his face, scrubbing at his eyes. When he looks back up, his reflection is intact. What does this mean? He's so tired. Is it real? Or is it his mind slowly giving up on him? It's too soon to tell. Under the sink, he looks around. Bleach, Windex, furniture polish, not much to work with. Bleach is off limits, and who the hell would drink Windex? Furniture polish might be okay, so long as it won't kill him. He holds the can in his hand, wondering what to do after. With a pair of hair scissors from a drawer, he punctures the can. Putting his lips on it, he swallows the polish as well as inhales it. It only takes a few seconds before he feels like vomiting. With a foot he kicks open the bottom cabinet, throwing the can back under, hoping its contents won't scent the air and give him away. Lemon fresh my ass. Izuku opens the door and tries to make it to mom, hitting the ground halfway in the hallway. While he knew he wouldn't be able to breathe after aspirating the oils in the polish, he didn't think it would be this bad. As long as I don't die. Mom runs towards him after she hears him hacking up. He can feel a hand on his back, patting him as if she could tap the illness out of him. Not wanting to actually vomit on the carpets, he scrambles to a trash can and empties the contents of his stomach. Inko isn't entirely sure what's going on, but she knows her son is poisoning himself. She heard the hissing from the bathroom, the intake of air after a deep and pained sigh. Reassuring Makumo that everything would be all right, she went to get the bathroom garbage can to put in his room for him. Just as she thought, it smells like lemon in the bathroom. Opening the cabinet, she finds the busted can of furniture polish. Why? Is he making himself sick so he can't go to school? Does he feel like he can't simply ask to stay home? Inko's scared. It's been hours, and mom has rarely checked up on him. He sits in his room, going through his notes. If mom isn't watching him like a hawk, it's because she's already onto him. Izuku can't help but wonder if he could even get away with vigilantism if mom lives. She'd found out he's acting strange within minutes. Really, it's her trust that would keep him from being found out so soon. Recalling the general time of day the fire starts, he makes his way to the living room, saying nothing as he sits beside mom on the couch. You feeling okay? She asks in a knowing tone. We'll be okay. He hums, watching the clock. I need a time. I can't operate around general times. That's not good enough for him. The lock on the door moves at 3:12 p.m. He tries not to react. Not to let mom know he can see something. If he reacts, it'll give away that he was expecting them, changing their course of action. Instead he waits until mom reacts, the gasp of air giving away her terror, how she begins throwing an arm over his chest. I have to wait. And walks Hasashi Midoriya, smile smug as can be. Mom relaxes a bit. Hasashi, don't scare me like that. You don't live here, you have to knock. She scolds. He smiles gently at her. It's fake. It's a trap. Sorry, I guess I'm so used to showing myself in after all these years. Speaking of, hey kiddo. Izuku shuts his eyes tight, trying to get into character. Dad, he asks with a tilt of his head. What are you? I came to check up on you guys. He roars, waltzing away from the door. It's still open but mom doesn't tell him to close it. After all these years she's still far too trusting of him. It's sad, to be honest. Izuku can see the shadows of people moving out in the hallway. Did Hasashi bring gunmen in case he was incapacitated? Why? What does he expect to happen? Why does he have to make sure they die? This is a poor single mother, who's rarely uses her quirk and her presumed quirkless child. What the fuck was Hasashi expecting? If I loop again, I can hide mom in my room or in the neighbors and then take them on myself. His muscles aren't up to par anymore, but he has the knowledge. Hasashi's been absent for so long in the lives of his ex and his brat, but he does remember one thing painfully clear. Makumo Midoriya might be hard to kill, even if he's not aware of it, but as a small child Makumo was a genius. Keeping an eye on his grades and test scores, Hasashi sees the kid never lost that spark. Before he left, Makumo showed an unusually high understanding of the world around him. It worried Hasashi, knowing that his plans would be uncovered by his own flesh and blood. How he could read some of Hasashi's paperwork and point out the connection to the next day's report of a death on the news. How the change in the market could be related to what Hasashi was working on. A fucking 4-year-old. It wasn't normal. He'd never admit it scared him. To think of what kind of monster this kid could become if raised right. It often crossed his mind. What if Hasashi was the one who sculpted his mind to his needs? What if he taught Makumo from an early age and used his genius for his personal gain? It'd never work. Makumo would realize he's being used. This is the exact reason Hasashi waited so long to kill them off, for the fear that Makumo had been expecting it. So Hasashi opted to wait, quietly monitoring their activity and lives, finding the perfect time to strike. If he catches on and I have to replan, that'd give him enough time to work. That, and Hasashi's contract states that this is the deadline to kill them by. They have to die today. Even now as he talks about how Inko and Mikumo's lives must be now, those eyes stare at him. Every once in a while they flicker to the open door, like he knows there's men lined up in the hallway. Hasashi can see the gears turning in that brilliant little head of his son, quietly tearing apart his every movement and word. Oh, he knows something is going to happen. It has to be now. Hasashi keeps talking, and the second that Brat looks away, he inhales deeply. Fire breath creeps out in small puffs of smoke. The moment Inko's eyes meet his, he mutters a silent apology to his ex-wife and exhales. The apartment is going up in flames. Their world is surrounded by fire, and Mikumo calmly throws his mother against the corner of the wall, covering her with his body. He's willing to die for his mother. Well, the kid always wanted to be a hero. Hasashi supposes he can still be one, only saving a singular person. Then again, Inko will die regardless. Mikumo's no hero. Hasashi doubts that he has to do much else, seeing as they're being engulfed in flames. The clothes on Mikumo's back are well and gone. He's screaming out in agony, still protecting his mother while she screams at him to stop. Sighing, Hasashi takes his men and leaves. Izuku bears the pain, waiting until Hasashi leaves to open the balcony door and push Mom outside where it's safe. She pulls him out too, shutting the door. The way his mother cries breaks his heart. "It's okay, Mom." She opens her mouth to protest. "I have a quirk, I'll heal. It's fine. Just because you'll live doesn't mean this is okay." She snaps, fretting about where to get a phone and call 911. "Mom, I'm going to die. It's okay, I'll come back, but please let them take my body. Go hide with the neighbors or something. Please, just stay out of sight and don't come for me. I'll find you. Mikumo Midoriya. If you think for even 1 second that I'd let you do that, you must be out of your mind." She tries to be stern, failing when her voice cracks and gives her away. Inko was helpless as her son saved her life. He's always wanted to be a hero. She's let him down so many times trying to protect him. Yet here she is, watching his flesh stick the pavement of the balcony, smiling and speaking clearer than she's ever heard. He says he's going to die, but that he'll come back. Mikumo has a quirk, but she's never seen it. There's no proof he'll come back, but he speaks with a voice that demands her trust. "You're my hero, Mikumo," she says, cupping part of his face, careful not to touch the exposed areas. He smiles at her, surely in pain from the way his face wrinkles into the burns. "That's all I've ever wanted to hear." Mikumo laughs, eyes closing slowly. It terrifies her, but she said she'd trust him. "I'm expected to leave my baby and find safety. He has a plan. I don't know how, but he has a plan. The least she can do for her hero is follow it, as much as she absolutely hates this." Hasashi tried to kill them. After all these years, he tried to finish them off. With a heavy sigh, she waits for the sound of sirens. When they get closer, she climbs up onto the ledge of the balcony, carefully making her way over to the neighbors. Oh, this is scary. How do heroes do this? Would she even survive if she fell? Maybe, but not without serious injury. Inko decides she can't let what her son did for her go to waste. He wakes up with a strong inhale, as if his body was being jump-started. It leads to him coughing violently and falling off the table. "Okay, I don't have much time." He gets off the floor, going to the same supply closet he raided all those years ago and putting on clothes. The autopsy has already been done. The stitching remains in his chest, but he can tell there'd never be a scar if he removes them. So this doesn't count as trauma. Really, Izuku's feeling pretty fucking traumatized, if he does say so himself. There are no cameras in here, that's great. It also explains how they didn't see a corpse get up and leave through the window. He logically knows Hasashi comes to see if they're actually dead. But he's hoping he can settle for autopsy reports and not have to see the bodies. Maybe a note saying they'd be cremated, because our bodies would be far too damaged to have in a casket. The question is, how long does he have? There's no answer. Izuku's first step is to find someone who looks the same height and weight as Mom. Hair doesn't matter. He has hair chalk that'd work in a pinch. Even the face doesn't matter. Burn victims can be severely hard to identify. Shuffling down the street, he tries to find someone fast. There, a woman stands outside a store, checking a list and going in. It's a camera shop. Izuku slinks in after her, watching her through the aisle beside her. "Okay, I know I don't age as fast. I know I look younger than I am. I can do this." It's now a matter of if he can go through with it. Hitoshi's on his way to the camera shop, eager to get a new lens he's been saving up for, as well as a few other things. Up the street, he almost bumps into this kid who's muttering about height and weight, wearing scrubs. In short, he looks crazy. "There," the kid mumbles, eyes locking onto a woman going into the same shop Hitoshi's headed to. Interesting. He's going there anyways. Might as well find out what this freak's deal is too. He looks familiar. Maybe they go to the same school. Something about this kid looks like he'd be an absolute headache to deal with, but one Hitoshi wouldn't mind having. The boy would never be my friend anyways, not after hearing about my quirk. Watching the boy from afar, he sees him stalk the woman through the shelves. He then witnesses the boy wreck his hair and start rubbing at his face. Is he purposely making his eyes and cheeks red? Hitoshi thinks he understands when the boy stops. It makes him look even younger. It raises several more questions. The kid examines himself a bit more, taking off a rather expensive-looking ring and sets it behind some boxes on the shelf. With a deep breath, he marches around the corner and approaches the woman. Ma'am, I'm lost and I can't find my mom. He whimpers, startling Hitoshi with just how young he can make himself sound. This is nothing like how his voice sounded. It's actually kind of impressive. Watching the interaction, Hitoshi quietly takes the ring from the shelf to help him find out information, and because that's just a stupid place to put it. Curious, he looks up the ring as he listens to the boy convince the woman to help him find his mom. What the fuck? There's no way this ring can be that much. 541,890.00 yen? That's insane. Where does a kid get something like this? Wait a second. As Hitoshi examines the ring in his hand, he feels small shifts in weight. How the image of the ring turns fuzzy and fades. Sometimes, he can see his hand through the ring. It's almost like it's fading out of existence. The theorist in Hitoshi is losing his fucking mind right now. Alright. I'll help you look around the block for your mom, and then I can take you to the station if we don't see her. Okay. The lady asks. The boy nods in response. Do you want me to buy you a popsicle or something to cheer you up? For a split second, Hitoshi holds his breath. The woman may not see it, but for the smallest moment, that boy's eyes are filled with the most intense guilt Hitoshi has ever seen. After a few blinks and a short breath, the look is gone. No, thank you. What did you say your name was? Is Mikumo. He was about to say something else. The lens can wait. Well, Mikuchan, if you change your mind, we can stop for food. They walk a bit before Izuku freezes. You know, you're a really good person, ma'am. I'm sorry, she repeats with a furrow of the brow. For causing you so much tea trouble, I mean. He corrects. Hitoshi gets a sense of dread he hasn't felt before. Izuku shook off whoever he felt watching him, while pretending he was just that eager to find his mother. Every offer of reassurance, every pat on the head, every maternal act this woman makes, Izuku feels like a villain. At this point, he's going to be. Save mom, save everyone I love. It's okay. In the back alley near the morgue, the woman asks him why he ran down here. I thought I heard her. He hates himself. I guess I was. I was just imagining things. Sorry. Don't apologize. It'll be all right. Let's keep looking. She holds her hand out to him. For a split second he sees the charred hand that had his mother's ring on it. The once hopeful hand of a corpse reaching out for Izuku. That's unfortunately soon. Izuku goes to grab the hand, making himself trip and eat concrete. She gasps in surprise and he can hear her running over to help. He's going to ruin the lives of some innocent family. He's going to take away someone's mother or daughter, someone's wife. Then again, hasn't Izuku suffered enough? Everyone gets to live happily with their mom except for him. He finally has a chance and he's scared it'll slip away forever. He's going to do anything it takes. The moment she's near, he grabs her leg and pulls up on it. Her head hits the pavement with a loud crack. She's still up, she's still alive. Izuku has to hurry, otherwise he'd process just what he's actually doing right now. She fights back as he apologizes, yanking her hair and pulling her bleeding head towards him. One hand on her chin, the other on the top of her head, he twists. The woman stops moving. Hitoshi can't believe he lost this kid. He turned the corner and they were gone. Ring in his hand, Hitoshi sees the setting sun's reflection glitching out of the diamonds. It's getting late. Who knows, maybe this is a chance to observe the ring and figure out what the hell is going on. Shouta watches his son's head nod back in his seat. The eyes roll into the back of his head. The woman takes her hands off the side of her face, looking into the face of one of her clocks. What did you do to him? Shouta asks, fighting off the drowsiness. There's something in my system besides quirk suppressants. I shouldn't feel this sluggish. He stole the love of my life away from me. She starts, kicking over the chair so Izuku hits the floor. Unresponsive. Shouta Todoroki was never anyone's to take. He corrects. Shouta tries to use his quirk, failing. He settles for trying to capture her. Unfortunately, her fighting is enough to keep him away. Again, what did you do to him? My quirk is a bit overpowered, some might say. I can take a person's consciousness and put them into one of these pocket dimensions. She taps on the glass of one of her clocks. The only things I can control are who's in each clock, how time works, and when to kill off that universe. She explains, all too happy. What do you mean kill off? What sort of villain would tell me all this? She's even doing it as they fight. Well, once the person dies, the world can still go on. Everyone has a mind of their own. It's a copy of the person's world, all contained in each clock. I only have so many of them. So when I want to use it for another world, I make it cease to exist. The people may think time goes on after the person dies, because it does, but only until it doesn't. What kind of quirk essentially lets a person play God? What are the downsides? There has to be downsides. Oni has a healing quirk. He can't die. What happens then? Shouta fears for the safety of his son. The mental stability he went in with can only last so long. The girl chuckles, dodging Shouta's kick. I don't really know, to be honest. I can't see what's happening in the clocks. I think, if he were to really die, my quirk would just restart the loop I put him in. It'd be like a glitch of sorts. She hums, genuinely thinking it over. I can tell he's already died a few times. His consciousness moves to a new clock. Therefore, a new loop. So the loops go on until she needs to use the same clock for another world. But his consciousness is forcibly moved to the next clock when he dies. Shouta thinks this is a load of bullshit. What happens if he dies but she doesn't erase any clocks to make room? Would a clock just erase itself? Would he stop looping until he can loop? There's so much Shouta wonders, with no way to prove it. How does she even know this? Can she use the quirk on herself? What do you think happens if he starts a loop in a new clock, but you keep the last loop still going? He asks. If he died and transferred his consciousness, I think he'd stay dead in the loop, just cause his consciousness would be gone. If he lived and was forced to transfer consciousness, I don't know. Maybe continue in the world on a sort of autopilot. Like, what were those gross monsters called again? Namu. Shouta hasn't heard of those in a very long time. I think he'd be kinda like a Namu. She keeps talking while fighting, and it suddenly clicks for Shouta. This girl is telling him all this because she's lonely. She's isolated and oversharing because she thinks it's socializing. He can use this. A powerful quirk like that has to have drawbacks, huh? He tries. Her face scrunches, and she hesitates in blocking his attack. For one, I have no concept of time. I can't tell how fast or slow time moves. I've also been told that each time I use my quirk, it deteriorates my mental state, driving me mad like the people who fall prey to me. And if I were to look someone in the eyes while my eyes spin, it uses my quirk on them whether I want to or not. They spin when I'm emotional, happy, sad. No one's safe when I'm feeling emotional. Happened to my mom. She takes a deep breath. Shouta eases up on his fighting, wondering if it'd help her keep talking. Once they're in it, they can't get out until they meet the conditions of whatever kind of world it is, or unless they kill themselves. Loops are the most natural for me to do, even by accident. Her eyes look empty, like it's happened many times before on accident. How do you get out of a loop? In Oni's case, he has to relive the worst week of his life. The only way to get out is to relive everything exactly as he did before. Her smile slowly creeps back in. The villainy is showing more clearly. But I make it the worst week of their lives because they don't know my quirk. They think they simply went back in time. That they can change things, fix them, ruin them. No one's ever gotten out by reliving the loop exactly as it should be. Someone should have thought of that, though. He questions. Shouta thinks if he were in that situation, it'd only be logical to relive it right. Then again, the knowledge alone of what's going on may drive them to madness. Of course, she cackles, but they have to relive it exactly. Every step must be in the same place before. Every breath and blink has to be the same. Every twitch of the nose and reaction. Everything. This is bad. They grow of old age before getting out. He guesses. 1 week of my quirk to them is only a minute for us. They can be gone years and no one would ever really know. Shouta has faith in his son, but there's too much he needs to know. Shouta knows Izuku would go mad trying to fix what's wrong. That if it's the time in his life Shouta thinks he was sent back to, then he may not stand a chance. After all, Izuku Midoriya is nothing like Mikumo Midoriya. Izuku wipes his mouth, done throwing up for the 3rd time since starting. His phone screen keeps getting covered in blood and pus, making it hard to read through the Google article of how to do an autopsy. He doesn't have to do a full one, just enough to make it appear that he has. I still have to finish bagging the organs. Even being burned, there's enough moisture to seep out and give it away. After very thoroughly washing his hands, he moves to the laptop some employee left behind. He gets into the database and searches mom's information, using charts of her information and dental records to fake the death properly. He prints them out and makes sure to state that the bodies are said to be cremated. He didn't want to kill anyone, but he knows forgery alone wouldn't cut it. At least one employee in the morgue has to see the body. Someone did his autopsy. There's a witness. He needs someone to see this woman's body and see it as Izuku Midoriya. It's 7:30 and Hasashi hasn't been seen. Izuku leaves while he can. It's been a full day since seeing that weird kid trick a woman into following him. A full day that Hitoshi has had Mikumo's ring, watching it fade further out of existence. It's not even his ring and it scares him to watch. Hitoshi sits on the couch, clicking through the channels. Bored enough, he stops on the news. This is a very strange case indeed. We will be looking much farther into the mysterious fire that took the lives of Inko and Mikumo Midoriya early yesterday afternoon. The timestamp says the fire occurred between 3 and 4. That Mikumo's body was taken from the burnt apartment right after, but that the mother's body wasn't found. That her body just showed up in the morgue. The next report breaks down Hitoshi's world. It's a missing persons report. The picture is of the woman he watched Makumo lure away yesterday. What the fuck? The news doesn't give any more information on either story, prompting Hitoshi to want to go to the library. No fucking way. No fucking way. Hitoshi's at the library, staring from the doorway. In the very back corner sits a boy with green hair, surrounded by stacks of books taller than he is. Upon closer inspection, it is Makumo, but something's different. He very clearly cut his own hair, giving himself a side part. On the side he cut, his face is now horrifically scarred. Hitoshi's at the table before he even thinks about it. The boy is so absorbed in his books that he doesn't notice. He's furiously writing down notes, not even looking to see if the words are on the lines. They are. The books are about time travel, and quirk theory, and quantum physics. What the hell is this kid getting into? Hitoshi clears his throat, tapping his foot impatiently. The boy answers but doesn't look up. Give me a minute. Toshi, I have to finish this train of thought. Toshi, as in Hitoshi. He knows who I am. He didn't even look up. Makumo uses a nickname and talks like he's known Hitoshi all his life. What did you just call me? Hitoshi asks, sitting down. Makumo drops his pencil, slowly looking up. Hitoshi feels a bit guilty at the look of horror on his face. Toshi, he repeats. You look so young, and so much less tired than you do now. He blurts out, covering his mouth. He hums, analyzing this weirdo's moves. Is he going to flee? No, Makumo's shaking, eyes tearing up. I've missed you so much. The boy breathes after a moment. Do we know each other? Hitoshi asks, carefully approaching. Common sense is telling me I should be heading for the door. I guess not. He chuckles. Between the weird language and books scattered about, Hitoshi can put two and two together. The boy opens a laptop and begins typing something. You have a time travel quirk? Hitoshi questions, taking a seat beside the boy. Actually. Makumo turns the computer for him to see. It's the boy's very own autopsy report. Quirkless. That's not possible. Yeah, I know. Did he know I was going to ask? So, explain. Excuse me. The boy blinks a bit, turning his laptop away. You clearly know me, and you clearly trust me, so tell me. I want to know what you did to that woman yesterday. Hitoshi thinks a moment. Actually, you may not know me. After all, no one ever sticks around after hearing about my quirk. Brainwashing. Answer your question verbally and you've got me. I know. It sounds like Makumo's said it a million times by now. Makumo. Izuku. The boy cuts him off. Makumo dies. It's Izuku. Izuku. The name sounds familiar, more so than Makumo. Hell, even the haircut and scarred face seems more real. Alright, Izuku, what happened to your face? Izuku's face grows a bit red. I started to hate my own reflection. It didn't feel real because I wasn't used to looking like how I did. So he trails. Upon closer inspection, there's a piece of his ear missing. I have a regeneration quirk. It's a mutation. If too emotional or traumatized, it scars permanently. What did he do? I saw the scissors in the bathroom cabinet, and I just stopped thinking and then I realized I forgot Shado's ring. I get it. He's still not breathing. His breath is catching and getting caught in his throat. Izuku starts grabbing at his chest and hunching over. Izuku, he repeats, unsure of how to deal with this. Toshi, his voice is desperate and pleading, use your quirk. What? Use it. Hitoshi does as told, feeling Izuku's free will and taking it away from him. The boy relaxes. Hitoshi's heart hurts. No one's ever told me to use my quirk on them like that. He takes the ring out his pocket, placing it on the notebook the boy's working on. Upon closer inspection, Hitoshi can see that he's getting himself involved in something he definitely shouldn't. Intently watching the now relaxed look of Izuku, he props the kid back up in his seat and lets go of him. Here, Hitoshi motions to the ring now on his notes. I was with you in the store yesterday when you set it down. I took it when you left it behind. Thanks for everything. The last part is full of emotion that Hitoshi isn't too sure he understands. You're caught in a time loop. Hitoshi guesses based on the notes. This ring came with you from your timeline. And this one, he pulls a ring on a necklace out from his shirt. It's fading too. Oh, and this. He lifts his shirt and moves his arm, revealing a small tattoo. This one was not easy to get to stay. My quirk kept thinking it was an injury and kept absorbing all the ink. It's Hitoshi's mask. Well, sort of. This is the prototype design I've been considering. I haven't even made it yet. It's supposed to be made after high school. Izuku has a tattoo of something that's merely still a concept for Hitoshi. It's not fading at all. That's Catspiracy's mask. He may not know I'm Catspiracy yet. Yeah, this is the mask you picked to be made the day we graduated from UA. It's her hero debut's mask. My what? Hitoshi knows this kid is probably batshit, but there's just enough hope for Hitoshi to hold out. See if this kid is serious or not. I get into UA. I become a hero. Yeah, you go underground. Dad works on a lot of missions with you. Who? Dad. Eraserhead adopts us. Never mind. Crazy. Right. Katsuki heard it from his parents before seeing it on the news. It doesn't feel real. Deku and Auntie Inko were burned alive. On the news stories, they go around the apartment, reconstructing what they think happened. There's one spot that's not as burnt as the others, by the door. The fuckwads explain as Inko must have tried to huddle Mikumo close to the wall in order to protect him. No, fucking Deku was the one shielding her. Why? Deku of all people was smart enough to get out of this. So why the fuck is he dead? Why the hell do I feel like this? Katsuki never wanted to freak to die. As much as he hates to admit it, Deku was his childhood. Their families are intertwined. Theirs was never any escaping him. Yet here Katsuki is, looking at his classmates posting on social media with hashtag RIP Mikumo, telling lies about how close they were. No one gave a shit about him or his life, not even Katsuki. Katsuki knew something must have been wrong if Deku didn't show up to school that day. The fire happened at a time after he would have been home from school. Estimated time, 3:15 p.m. That's around the time the nerd would have been waltzing into his house. It's too convenient of a time for Katsuki to believe. Either that or it's denial. He can't explain why, but Katsuki won't believe Deku's dead until seeing a body. They said they were cremating them, on account of being too fucked up. Inko made it out to the neighbor's house, just like Mikumo told her to. She's never heard the boy spoke so clearly. Even as his skin was falling off before her, he spoke with confidence and with a lack of a stutter. It makes her proud just as much as it scares her. The neighbors have been nice enough to let her stay, even hearing the news about her apparent death. They say that a body was found, that I'm dead. Mikumo, baby, please don't tell me you did something. There's knocking at the door, prompting Mr. Sato to open it. Mikumo stands in the door, eyes already on Inko with an apologetic look. Baby, her face. What happened? I did this, it's fine. He hugs her first, not letting go. I know somewhere safe we can stay. He thanks the neighbors and begins pulling Inko out into the hall. Where have you been? Mikumo, you can't just disappear after something so scary happens. She feels herself tearing up, her own throat burning. They took my body to the morgue. I died, Mom. She has no words. The calm expression on his face, the lack of fear, it terrifies her. And you're fine with that. She's crying now, following her son as he messages someone. No, but it's not the first time, and it won't be the last time. This feels wrong. Every step Inko takes feels like she's intruding. She doesn't belong here and every fiber of her being knows it and hates it. Inko gets the distinct feeling that she was never meant to survive that fire. Shout is amused, to say the least. He reread the texts he got, saying he needs witness protection and that they're already on their way to his house. The message even says don't worry about Hasashi, they know we're married. Shouta's one condition was that they have to find their own way in. No keys, no nothing. Imagine his surprise when a literal kid shows up, dragging his parent behind him. The woman's crying, and the boy makes eye contact immediately with him from where he sits on the roof. Wait a minute, they are. Oh, this is pretty interesting. Hey Dad, guess what? Did he just call me Dad? Even the mother looks at the child with wide eyes, mouthing the word to herself. What? He muses. The second-floor bathroom window is broken. How did? It's not broken, just loose. Shouta looks back to watch the boy and he's gone. Dad, I don't need you to watch me. The voice is next to him. The boy's before him. Name, legally Mikumo, but you call me Izuku. It does ring a bell. Izuku stares at him a bit longer, and Shouta swears he can see some tears. Are you alright? Shouta asks, performing his duty as a hero. It's not about me, he mutters, climbing through the window and leaving his sight. Shouta drops down, greeting the woman. I'm Shouta Aizawa. Inko. Her eyes are puffy and red, like she cried the whole way here. The door opens and there stands a too proud Izuku. So, hear me out, the kid demands, earning a bit of Shouta's respect. I will. But when was the last time you've eaten anything? Either of you? He questions. A few hours ago. Inko answers, looking to her son, expecting the same sort of answer. Were they not together? 1, 2, 3, 4 days ago. Maybe. He guesses, unsure. Excuse me. Shouta and Inko both scold. Mikumo, why haven't you eaten anything? Wait, Mom, please don't cry again. He tries, failing completely. Okay, get inside. I'll have my husband pick up some food. He offers, eager to get them out of view and find some answers. All right, Mom, there's a bedroom on the second floor in the left corner. That's yours. It's closest to theirs, so they can protect you. She nods slowly, looking to Shouta for confirmation. He's right. It's the most logical if you're the one needing protection. I see. I'll let you two talk. She excuses herself, eyes staying on Izuku. She really doesn't want to leave his side again. They wait until she's gone. You called me Dad, he points out, causing Izuku to snort. That's the weird thing here. He laughs. I guess I ought to explain everything to you. With a faraway look, everything's explained to Shouta. He's not sure if he believes the kid, but there's no reason why he'd lie about all this. I would never have a kid, Shouta says, Izuku saying it at the same time in a mocking tone. It's just not logical. They say again. Kid, stop that. You say it all the time. He laughs. Every timeline, like once a week in my timeline. How, even after adopting me, you still say it. I adopt you. He repeats. So what happens to Inko? She dies. She was supposed to die in that fire, wasn't she? I can't keep watching her die. For the first time, Izuku's voice shakes. It makes Shadow want to reach out and hug the boy. Which he'd never do. This isn't my kid. Anyways, Dad, I have a question. What? Do you think using your quirk on me would cancel the person's quirk? The one who did this to me. Shadow tries it, nothing changing. No, it just cancels yours. I've already tried canceling a quirk. The moment you stood before me. Okay, what if I find the person in this timeline? Izuku tries, knowing the answer to his own question. Not unless they're also using it in this timeline. No, though it's still worth a try. The boy curses under his breath. So my next question is this. Can you adopt me and enroll me into the same school that Endeavor's son goes to? No. Shadow answers. Do you know how hard it is to adopt a kid? Do you know how much I do not care? Something about the sass irks Shadow, but it feels sickeningly familiar. Whatever, brat. Why do you need to get into Endeavor's kid's school? Izuku pulls a ring out, showing it flickering out of existence. I marry his son. This is the engagement ring. It came back with me, along with my mom's ring and a tattoo of your other kid. I'm starting to think he really didn't tell me everything. I got this ring off my mom's body. He holds onto the necklace. If it's fading, it means that I never take it from her body, meaning she's alive. Or, it means you simply don't find a body to take it from. He won't say that to the kid. If Shadow's ring is fading, that means that he never falls in love with me. I have to fix that too. So you're going to illegally transfer to his school for the sole purpose of making him fall in love with you. Yes, what a horrible idea. Cool, I'll get the papers. Inko could make out the words from the top of the stairs. She wasn't supposed to survive that fire, she was right. Just by living, she's messing up her baby's future. Does she trust him to fix it on his own? Stay out of his way. No, she's his mother. It's her job to protect the family, not his. If Inko dying gives him a happy future and a big family, who is she to take that away? Inko knows he might hate her for this, but it's the only way to make things right. Mikumo can't just change fate to have everything he wants. Something has to give. If Inko survives, then whose life must be taken in her place? You can't have it all, baby, I'm sorry. I want to stay but the world just won't have it. Izuku ate dinner with Mom, Dad, and Mike. It doesn't feel real. All three of his parents are getting along and talking. It doesn't feel real. They joke and offer to get Izuku more food. It doesn't feel real. Sweetie, are you alright? I don't know. He confesses. This just doesn't feel like it's real, like I'm asleep. Well, it's been 4 days since your last full meal and how long since you've slept a full night? Exactly. Shouta finishes, putting an extra slice of pizza on Izuku's plate. Now, you have school in the morning. Izuku managed to nab a uniform fairly easily, waiting at the front gate for Shadow to appear in sight. A car pulls up at the front gate, and the window rolls down, showing Endeavor in the passenger seat as Shadow gets out. Come home right after school. You have training, Endeavor states. Shadow mumbles a yes as he gets out the vehicle. His eyes meet Izuku's for a split second, lingering on his scar, before he drops the gaze and walks past him. Endeavor meets his glare. What are you looking at? Endeavor asks. Not much, you overrated piece of shit. Izuku growls out. Don't you have some puppies to go set on fire or something? Go away, dickwad. He spits at the car, smiling to himself when it drives off. It's been a while since he's seen Endeavor in person. Izuku turns around, ready to take out his schedule and figure out where to go, but he turns and slams into Shadow. He regains his footing, looking up at the boy. He stares at Izuku with an expression he's come to know well. That's all in wonder for Shadow. Do you hate my father? Shadow asks, looking away. Of course I do, he's garbage. Izuku can't tear his gaze away. I've missed you so much. He may have most of his family on his side right now, but Shadow's different. He's always been different. I see. Shadow attempts, openly staring at Izuku. Okay, give me your schedule. He extends a hand, waiting for Shadow's schedule. It's far enough in the year for people to not worry about a schedule. Shadow hums, why? Are you new? Yeah, okay, then take mine. I have all the same classes as you and I have no idea where anything is. At this, Shadow narrows his eyes in suspicion. Why do you know you have the same classes as me? They did it on purpose, seeing as you're the son of a hero too. Izuku hums, or the son of someone who thinks he's a hero. What hero? Shadow questions, walking ahead. Izuku follows closely behind. Well, one is super famous, and the other is an underground hero. But the thing is, they don't want the public knowing they're married, so I can't actually tell you. Even if you do end up marrying me, you'll have to wait. It's still not my secret to tell. Oh, so they're two heroes. Yeah, I also know All Might. He's going to be teaching at shit. Why did I say that? Teaching at sorry, I forgot I can't say that either. Shadow hums, heading up the stairs and turning to wait for Izuku. You're weird, the boy announces. You're weird. Shadow comes to that conclusion fairly soon. But there's something about the way the boy talks that makes it obvious he's telling the truth. Even the thing about knowing All Might. Everything about this kid is blunt and straightforward that it kind of startles Shadow. Hell, the way he talked about his father immediately got his interest. He was waiting for me at that gate, wasn't he? Though, Shadow can't recall a classmate ever wanting to get to know him for a reason that didn't involve his father. Until now, he supposes. I am, yeah. The kid agrees. Oh, I'm Izuku, by the way. Izuku reaches out and shakes his hand. Shadow notices that Izuku's hesitant to let go. Well, you know. I guess there's no need to introduce myself. I very much so do know. Weird. Is strange. In class, the boy sits in an empty seat in the back row, next to Shadow. Every movement Izuku makes feels calculated, like he's planning something. His eyes sit on every person in the classroom as they come in. He has a notebook out and a few books on quirk theory. He's studying even while class hasn't started yet. Even Shadow's not that diligent. The boy's hand moves fast as he writes down information. Once in a while, he taps the pen, frustrated or at a dead end. Do you need help with something? Shadow asks, seeing that he's starting to chew his pen with a scowl. No, it's nothing you should worry about. Izuku stops talking, eyes trailing up to a girl walking in through the door. Oh, maybe he thinks she's pretty or something. That thought alone bothers Shadow somehow, but he can't name why. It's a girl with clocks all over her. Embedded into her skin, it's hard to tell from far away, but even her irises have small clocks in each of them. She often stares at Shadow, so it was fairly easy for him to notice that detail. The pen drops to the floor, and within seconds Izuku is across the classroom, grabbing the girl with one arm and holding a fist. Shadow has no clue what's going on, but he panics too, eager to save the girl from whatever the hell possessed Izuku. His ice crackles across the floor, climbing up one of Izuku's legs and onto the fist he's holding up. No one in their right mind would try breaking out of the ice. I better not get in trouble for quirk use because of this kid. With his free leg, Izuku kicks off the floor, kicking high enough to hit his frozen fist, shattering the ice. Shadow swears he saw Izuku's leg bend too far at the knee. It appeared as though he broke something to kick like that, but doesn't let it show. He then swings his elbow around, breaking more ice with a sickening crack. Is he just breaking his bones? The moment he's free, he tackles the girl into the hallway. Shadow's out the door in seconds, pinning Izuku down. Shadow, you have to let me go. Shadow hesitates as Izuku begs, voice broken. He uses his first name, like it was always his to use. You're attacking an innocent person. She's ruining my life. He growls out, trying to get Shadow off of him. I was going to get fucking married and she ruined my life. The girl doesn't run away. Instead, she looks on in horror. Does she know something? Let him go, Todoroki. Her voice is soft. What was her name again? Chu. He does as told, still having to hold onto Izuku's arms, because he lunges the second Shadow lets go. Do you two know each other? He expects Chu to answer first. No, we're total fucking strangers. It sounds like something that should be sarcastically, but Izuku only says it with despair. Did I use my quirk on you? Chu asks, looking ashamed. What's your quirk? Shadow asks. My appearance makes it rather obvious. But it has to do with time, sort of. She begins, but I swore I'd never use it. It's too dangerous to really figure out what it does. It gets a laugh from Izuku. His gaze is hollow. Do you know what it feels like to watch everyone you love die over and over again? He asks, gaze sending chills down his spine, only to wake up and do it all over again. What did I do to you? She asks, eyes watering and spilling over. Shadow watches her a moment, wondering how someone like this could possibly hurt someone. The day before my own fucking marriage, you sent me back to loop the worst week of my life, until I die. He explains a bit more in depth, leaving out the name of the person he marries. You said that no one survives it, that they all kill themselves to get out. That's not. There should always be a way out. Why would I do something like that? You become a villain, Izuku says bluntly, having no sympathy for this girl. Shadow's grip loosens on Izuku, sad for this boy who just walked into his life. He said he's looping. Has he done this before? Have we met before? The thought of never knowing if they've met before scares Shadow. It makes him feel like he might just be a puppet, a character in someone else's story. Why would I? Her eyes widen after Izuku gives a pointed look at Shadow. Oh, she stammers, I've always, don't tell him anything. Izuku demands. Why can't I know? So, there's no way to stop your own quirk? No, I don't think so. I don't know how to use it well enough to even think about stopping it. But like I said, there's always a way out. There has to be some set of conditions you have to meet in order to stop the loop. Like, Shadow questions. Like maybe trying everything. Have nothing repeat from your first timeline. Or, what if because I did this to you for that reason, I made the condition something evil like killing those you love? There'd be no way for him to find out unless he tries everything. For a long while, Izuku is silent. He gets up and walks to the door. Class is starting. He mumbles, collapsing back into his seat with his head in his arms. Is he all right? Shadow finds himself worrying over him. This total stranger who called his dad a dick and then followed him around. Logically, Shadow thinks he'd hate someone like this. Izuku is loud and energetic, and an overall chaotic energy. Shadow's boring, he thinks. A part of him feels they balance in a weird way, rather than clash. Izuku gets up when the teacher calls him to the front of the classroom to introduce him. I can't imagine what the teacher would have done if Izuku attacked her while he was here. Students, we have a transfer student. His name is Izuku Midoriya. Please treat him kindly. Midoriya. Where have I heard that name? Hey, a kid shouts. Isn't Midoriya the name of that family who just burned alive? Why would they bring up something so vile? If Izuku is part of that family, why would they think that's okay? Yep, Izuku says, popping the P on the end. My family just burned to death. Thanks for reminding me. His gaze stays fixed on that kid, watching them cower back into their seat. Izuku takes his seat. Izuku said he keeps watching his loved ones die over and over. Is that why he's so expressionless over this? Shadow can't imagine that pain. He's seen his family hurt, but he's unsure what he'd do if he had to keep reliving it. Shadow almost fears for the boy, wondering how far he can go before breaking. She said he might have to try killing those he loves to see if it's a condition to get out of the loop. Right. Even if he does get out of this, there's going to be damage. The school day carries on like normal, and Shadow realizes Izuku isn't doing school work at all. He's simply continuing the quirk theory notes he was writing before. He's going to overwork himself. Hey, Shadow whispers, looking at the bags under his eyes. Yeah, Izuku blinks, surprising to see Shadow initiating a conversation. In all seriousness, Shadow's surprised too. When was the last time you slept? A full night. Shadow feels an odd sense of concern when Izuku grows silent again. Ask me in study hall. He hums, eyes back on his work. For someone who was so open earlier, he's starting to close himself off. Shadow walks with Izuku towards the cafeteria, explaining where everything is. While Izuku insists being shown around doesn't matter in the end, Shadow still feels obligated to point out what different rooms are and such. He looked upset when I said we don't have a study hall, but relieved when I said we have an extended lunch period. Izuku lets Shadow pick his food, saying it's something that they did because Izuku could never decide what to eat. Shout was right. We have met, and by the sound of it, we were close. At first, Shadow picked out a table in the corner of the cafeteria, but Izuku asks about the roof. Students shouldn't be allowed roof access. He questions, looking at Izuku with furrowed brows. Why not? Safety hazard, why else? Yeah, okay, we'll be fine. Lead the way, pretty boy. Izuku seems happier, calmer. Wait, pretty boy. Leading him up the staircase, he smiles to himself. See, they lock it. You wasted your time. Shadow blinks as Izuku sets his tray down and tells Shadow to look away. Why? Just do it, Shadow. He called me Shadow again. He nods and does as asked, curious of where this is going. The second he looks away, there's a cracking noise, an inhale, and the jingle of metal. Shadow can see the light hitting his face once the door opens. After a few seconds, Izuku says he can turn back. How'd you get it open? He questions, seeing a spot of blood on the ground. My quirk. Which is? Shadow huffs, aware that he answered vaguely on purpose. There's a stretch of silence. Analysis. He's lying to me. Shadow has no proof, but he feels like it's not true. Like he knows Izuku well enough to tell when he lies. That can't be true, though. They've never met before today. Or at least, I've never met him before today. Sure, Shadow agrees sarcastically, watching Izuku's glare immediately soften into guilt. Oh, now Shadow feels bad. There's obviously a reason for it. So, back to before, when was the last time you actually slept? Well, technically a few days ago. The loop starts with me waking up in the morning, but it doesn't count as resting for this version of you. He thinks aloud. Has he been spending the nights trying to figure this out too? He's going to fry himself. Right. So, sleep. I know it seems wrong, like you're wasting time, but running on empty won't help you. As Shadow says it, Izuku scrunches his nose, eating his food quietly. Izuku takes Shadow's tray and shovels his cold soba onto it. How did? Shadow questions, grateful for such a gift. It's your favorite food. Izuku shrugs, taking a bread roll in exchange. So you really do know me? Shadow asks, leaning forward. Their eyes meet. Izuku stares a long moment. There's pain in those eyes. It looks like he's lived a life of horrors I can't begin to imagine. I know you very well, yeah. He looks at Shadow's hair a long while. You grow your hair out. It was down to your waist the last I saw you. He reaches out, running his fingers through his hair. Shadow isn't fond of strangers touching him, but it feels safe. And he can tell Izuku clearly needs this. I learned how to braid it, but I was never any good. What do I say to that? What do I do? Well, maybe when you get back, you can take classes, he offers, feeling a bit sad when Izuku drops his hand. I could, but I'm kinda infamous in the future. Infamous. Do you become a villain? Instead of confirming or denying right away, Izuku laughs. He has a snort that Shadow finds endearing. Well, some people still see me as one. As of the day I left, I'm the world's most famous vigilante. There's a nostalgic smile on his face. I'm also a licensed pro hero, but I literally only got the thing in case I get busted for being a vigilante. I'm not going to ask why yet, but if you're a vigilante, then can't you still go in public? Your face isn't known, right? Yeah, about that. I graduated with you at UA. And the day I graduated, Izuku Midoriya basically disappeared. Though, Shadow hums, so someone recognizing you would probably be bad. Actually, Izuku starts with a small smile. I'm pretty sure a lot of people recognize me because this scar is pretty identifiable. I know the feeling. But the thing is, literally no one ever talks about it. I run a coffee shop and no one ever questions why a pro hero disappeared just to sell coffee. You're a strange person, Shadow restates, positive. You say this once a night, shoo. Now you're shortening it. Can I ask you something? Shadow waits for the small nods he gets. What's that scar from? Well, I had a psychotic break the other night and mutilated myself. What? But, in my timeline, this scar is from a wooden beam that collapsed on me when my father burned me alive. When your father burned you alive. Izuku said his parents are pro heroes, so he must have been adopted some time after his birth father tried to kill him. Abusive fathers with fire quirks, am I right? Izuku jokes. Usually, Shadow would be fairly pissed at someone talking about this, but he's not mad hearing it from Izuku. Hold on, you know about my father's abuse. Is that why you called him a dickwad? I know about it, yeah. I hated him before finding out about it. I actually got so pissed when you told me about it that I got his license revoked. You did what? Are you my hero? Shadow sputters. I'm no hero, Shadow. The tone of voice is serious and sad. He truly believes it. Shadow has so many questions, but it's all interrupted when the boy's phone rings. He picks it up, saying hi to his father with a grin. The grin fades as his eyes widen. His skin pales and Shadow wonders if he's going to throw up. What do you mean she? His voice is beyond broken. He's shaking and it hurts Shadow to watch. Why Yaheim? I'm on my way. He hangs up the phone, furiously wiping at his eyes. Izu, are you alright? Shadow asks, unaware of the overly cutesy nickname he used. It must have just slipped out. From where, he has no idea. Something happened to my mom. I gotta go. Izuku doesn't bother to get his tray. He leans over to Shadow and kisses him on the cheek, not thinking too much. I'll talk you later, okay. I love you, Shadow, see you later. With that, a very panicked Izuku Midoriya jumps off the building, grabbing onto a tree and swinging his way to the ground. He takes off running. Shadow thinks over what just happened, closing his eyes and seeing some sort of vision. He sees himself walking up the steps in a courtroom, approaching a boy in a green mask and kissing him on national television. Does this happen in Izuku's life? The memory is still a bit fuzzy. Shadow settles a hand on the cheek this boy kissed him on. I'm the one he marries. It all makes sense. Then, why did Izuku not want him to know? Shadow heard the shower running from upstairs, but thought nothing of it. Ms. Midoriya said she was taking a shower, though she looked rather sick as she said it. There was an annoying drip coming from somewhere upstairs. She probably forgot to turn the water off all the way after getting out. He shuffles upstairs, nearly slipping on the water coating the steps. The drip is from the water hitting the next step. Why is there water? Shadow hurries to the bathroom, seeing the doors still closed. Water runs out from under the door. It's not clear water. There's pink and red in the water. Shadow bangs on the door. Ms. Midoriya, he yells, trying to open the door. It's locked. Ms. Midoriya, are you alright? Open up. He considering busting the door down, but that'd take too long. The kid said the bathroom window was broken anyways. Shadow runs into their room, climbing out his window into the bathroom. He can't see inside because of the curtains, but he hears no signs of life from the bathroom. He breaks the glass and climbs in. The ground is stained red and brown, showing some of the bloods already began to dry where the water doesn't touch. Shadow's feet stick with every step. The shower's running, but the tub runs over and onto the floor. There's a note on the counter with the name Mikumo on it. Inko Midoriya's body is in the bathtub. Her hair is soaking wet, slicked down and covered her face. Her shirt is red instead of the pink and white it was before. The bathroom scissors are on the floor beside her. A civilian died and Shadow had no idea. A child is parentless because he wasn't watching close enough. With unshaking hands, he calls Izuku. Izuku barrels in through the door, looking around. Mom, Dad, he screams. Up here, watch your step. Dad calls back. Izuku runs to the voice, nearly slipping on the wet staircase. Dad stands outside the bathroom, looking down. Dad, his voice gives away his fear and he hates it. The man holds him by the shoulders when he tries to see what's in the bathroom. Where's my mom? He asks, shaking. There was an accident. Dad sighs, looking away. I can't bring myself to tell a kid this, but you're a special case. I know you're mentally older than you currently are now, but it still pains me to talk like this to someone so young. To anyone, no matter their age. Your mother killed herself. Dad finally says. Izuku figured Mom somehow died again, but he would have never guessed this. Dad hugs him, stiff and awkward. He's not using to caring for his kids yet. Still, Izuku appreciates the gesture, enough to hold on to Dad and cry yet again. I'm sorry for your loss. I'm not losing her. Izuku mumbles. I won't fail next time. Right, why don't we go sit down? Dad offers, gently guiding him to the stairs. Izuku doesn't want to see the body, but he feels like he has to. That he needs proof of his mother's demise. Downstairs, Dad sits him down and hands him the note. Dear Mikumo, you are the greatest joy of my life and my dearest family. If you're reading this, then you already know what I did to myself. It wasn't easy. I'm scared even as I write this. I don't know what's beyond. I'm not sure if there is anything beyond for me. But I have come to the conclusion that I must do this. Mikumo, you woke up the other day a completely different person. You were more mature, yet immature at the same time. You were funny and confident, and you spoke in a way that demands attention. You're so different from the Mikumo I had the night before. I love you still. I love both of these sides to you. I overheard your conversation with Mr. Aizawa. I understand that this personality is simply what you become in the future. I know your future starts with Hasashi killing me in the fire. I know I was never meant to survive. Even if you hadn't said anything, I'd like to believe I'd still know. I can feel it, Mikumo. Each waking moment after surviving that doesn't feel like they're mine. It feels like I'm stealing time from someone else. Other people. Sweetie, I appreciate that you don't want me to leave you just yet, but something has to give. I don't think the universe can allow you to personally pick and choose who lives and who dies. Someone must take my place. Or multiple people can. I don't know how any of this works. What I know is, as a result of my death, you go on to do amazing things and meet amazing people. Mr. Aizawa hasn't said, but I can tell her already cares for you like his child. Same with Mr. Yamada. You've already been theirs this whole time, haven't you? Oh dear, I think I'm stalling, aren't I? You meet the love of your life and you get married. You gain a brother and 2 loving parents. I overheard even Katsuki comes back into your life. You gain so much in exchange for my life. I can't live knowing I'm taking away the happiest ending for you. I know you think you're doing right by trying to save everyone, but I can feel it. You can't save us all. No one's asking you to. Please, just live your life as things were meant to play out. You shouldn't tempt fate, darling. I want to say that I'm sorry. For this, for everything. When you were a child I said something awfully sad to you, didn't I? I'm proven wrong, I see. You may not grow up to be a hero by occupation, but I can clearly see you're an outstanding hero to many. You're my hero too, Mikumo. Please, continue to save those who need it. Understand that I myself am beyond saving. For once, let me save you. The pages get wet. Why? Because they were in the bathroom. No. Izuku sniffs, wiping his eyes. He can't cry on it. It'll ruin the ink. It'll ruin what he has left of her. I'm sorry, Dad offers, sitting beside him on the couch. It's not your fault. You had no way of knowing she'd do that. I had no way of knowing she'd do that. It's fine, we can try again. Dad stares at him a long moment, sighing. Izuku, I don't think it's healthy for you to witness your mother die and immediately say it's fine, you're becoming desensitized. Is he? No, he doesn't think so. I'm trying to not to. I want to save her, save everyone. That's all I want. Don't you think that's a bit unobtainable? Just say impossible. I know that's what you're thinking. Why would it be? Not him too. I don't believe in much, but I think the world governs itself a certain way. The butterfly effect is a thing for a reason. If you save her, what happens? What tragedy occurs to take her place? Why do you say it like that? Izuku stares at the ceiling, wondering if any water could soak through the floor above. You don't know how that person's quirk works. You don't know what laws of the universe have to be obeyed. What if instead of a life having to give, it's a tragedy? Maybe it's a massacre and several people die. Dad explains, throwing out ideas. That could be possible. He mumbles, thinking back to the last few loops. Maybe it's just a negative event that has to happen. Who knows? I can restart the loop and prevent this. He sighs, running a hand through his hair. You said you don't know what happens when the loop ends. Dad points out, you can't keep running away from that. Finish this loop. But Dad, I'm serious. Fine. Shadow waited after training with his father, waiting for a message from the mystery known as Izuku Midoriya. That's going to be my future husband. Not once did he ever think he'd be with anyone. He's being raised to be a hero and nothing more. He's a tool in his old man's game to surpass all might. He admits he's socially a bit clueless. Yet someone so spontaneous falls in love with him. He wants answers. He wants to know what happens, even if it's not the best idea. Late at night, his phone buzzes. Izuku, hey, sorry for ditching you. Shadow, is everything all right? What happened? Izuku, open your window. What? Why should he do that? Shoto rolls over in bed, seeing Izuku perched outside his window. How did he get up here? How long has he been there? Izuku flashes a smile as he goes to open the window. The boy hops down with ease, smiling weakly at him. The smile is somewhat forced. What are you doing here? Shoto asks, closing the window behind him. Your room is soundproof and you wanted to talk. So, here I am. He knows I soundproofed it already. I see. So again, are you okay? No, my mom just killed herself. That's a pretty casual tone of voice to use. They talk everything through, and Izuku spares no details. It hurts to see this kid so accustomed to death. After a while, when the subject changes, Shoto can't help but ask, why didn't you tell me I'm the one you marry? His eyes snap to Shoto, completely bewildered. You kissed me goodbye. You know so much about me. You said you love me. Laughing a bit, Izuku slaps a hand on his face. God, it's so normal for me to kiss you goodbye, I forgot that I can't. Wait, why can't you? Will something happen? Shoto asks, watching Izuku sputter. Shoto, I can't just go around kissing people because I marry them in the future. I look crazy if I do that. Oh, that's a good reason. Still, you should have told me. Shoto decides. Izuku pulls something out of his pocket, showing a ring. I know that ring. Shoto grabs it, watching it fade and change in weight as he holds it. Is it real? Was it, now fading into oblivion? Wait, you know it. Izuku asks, more surprised than Shoto. When I was a kid, before my mom. You know, I guess he knows everything about me, then. There was a day where she took me to a jewelry shop. She saw this ring and fell in love with it. She said something like if I were to marry the love of my life, I'd want them to have a ring as beautiful as them. There's no way I don't marry him if this is his ring. I must have gone back to that small little shop and gotten it. Oh, Izuku's voice is soft. He's at a loss for words. But why does it look like this? I think if it fades completely, it means I never marry you, and therefore never get the ring. Why is it still fading? I'm right here. Shoto, I'm not going to make you marry me. Things can change. You can decide you don't love me in this timeline. You can love someone else. Anyone else who earns your heart. I didn't tell you because I don't want to force you into my life like that. Izuku sighs. I can't make you love me. Why didn't you just tell me? Say we're meant to be together. Do you know how that sounds? Izuku forces a laugh, like an arranged marriage. Shoto thinks it does. Yeah, given his history, it makes sense why Izuku would want to steer clear of anything like that. I get it. Shoto hums. So, do you want to talk about what happened some more? Izuku's on his last day in the loop. It's the 7th day. Shoto's ring is no longer faded. It's sturdy and weight again. Mom's ring has faded from his necklace. He never saved her. It simply means he was never given the chance to take it from her body. Toshi's tattoo is there to stay, too. He's introduced him to Dad and Mike, watching as they get to know each other all over again. They've already begun talking about adopting. Once Izuku told his dads about Toshi's current life, he's been making a case against Endeavor, dropping hints into the police station, ready to start the creation of Oni all over again. He can almost see Tsukachi's gray hair coming in. As he tries to mentally figure out how to fix the next loop, he finds himself meeting more dead ends. He fears he'll have to take up some of those suggestions from people. I might have to experiment. As much as he hates it, it's true. They eat dinner, the table is full. Izuku stops eating, feeling nauseous. You feeling all right, little listener? Mike asks. The week's up. Toshi points out. It's true. It's been 7 days. Does it matter what time of day? Maybe. I don't know what'll happen to me, but I love all of you. I promise I'll get us the good ending. The world around him blurs, and Izuku thinks he passes out. There's a swirl of images around him, glimpses into what became of that timeline. Izuku never goes to UA. Why? He has no idea. Maybe he decides being a vigilante is enough from the get-go. He sees newspapers and reports on TV. First, the death of examinee Ochako Uraraka. She was crushed by the zero-pointer robot. There wasn't enough time to stop it. When they finally did, it settled into a neutral position, effectively killing her. The death of Class 1A's homeroom teacher, Shouta Aizawa, is next, followed by the death of a UA student named Minoru Mainta. In the events of USJ, a racerhead gave his life to protect his students. Mainta, the student who took his spot in Class 1A, was killed after standing frozen in fear. The youngest son of the Ada family was found slaughtered in a back alley in Hasu, along with the body of the hero native. During the summer training camp, both Hitoshi Shinsu and Katsuki Bakugo were kidnapped by the League of Villains. Izuku knew the location from his own time, but didn't account for how hard it was to save the both of them. In the wake of Kamino, the death of All Might himself ruined Japan. Izuku Midoriya was too late, trying to save the two students. He never gets one for all and the world is falling to all for one. The school known as UA High School lost several students after the events that occurred. The citizens have long since been losing faith in this school's ability to keep children safe. The principal of UA received a lot of blame, some speculating the deaths of students and civilians involved with UA was a plan he had derived of his time in captivity, in order to get back at humanity for his pain. Principal Nedzu was taken and experimented on once more. With the rise of villains, countless heroes are slaughtered, including Endeavor himself, shortly after getting his license back. As for the hero known as Hawks, they never find a body. Feathers of his can be found near his last sighting, but that's all there is. Why Izuku sees what was never meant to happen, unable to stop most of it, he has no idea. Is it his consciousness? Was he on autopilot? Was something bigger happening in the background that required his attention? The butterfly effect is real and painful, yelling at Izuku to do better, to think of the consequences. He knows this sound. Izuku knows this sound very well. The all-might alarm clock I had in middle school. He reaches out and hits it. What a weird dream to have. Opening his eyes and waking up, Izuku sees the ceiling. Fuck. He gets to find out the consequences of his actions. How fucked is that? Worse, he actually starts the loop over again. Now he knows what happens and how. He knows there is probably a set of conditions he has to meet before getting out of the loop. He has a few plans, but first, before carrying out the more unwanted plans, Izuku tried to complete the cycles exactly as they're supposed to be. He's lived through every event in his own timeline. It's been 12 straight loops of him repeating the exact same things, still changing nothing at all. The glimpses into how his life is changed by these loops are almost identical to how his life actually turned out. But each time, one or two things differ. He doesn't know how. He did everything right. He tried everything right. Now it's time for him to start going in the other direction. He knows this sound. Izuku knows this sound very well. The all-might alarm clock I had in middle school. He reaches out and hits it. What a weird dream to have. Opening his eyes and waking up, Izuku sees the ceiling. Let's get this over with. He groans into his pillow. This time, he's going to do what he decided at Shadow's school. He's going to kill that girl and see if it cancels her quirk. But first, I have to get Mom somewhere safe. He's going to do something that'll disappoint her greatly. He gets ready for school yet again and says good morning to Mom. He tries to act the same, but she's clearly onto him. She knew her son, huh? She makes the plates and sets them out. As she grabs the silverware, he stands. Hey, Mom, can you hand me a knife? This one's kind of dirty, he asks, nodding to the one beside his plate. She smiles gently and does as asked. The moment she turns back around, blade facing away from him, he goes for it. Inko knows something's up. Mikumo's putting up some sort of act. By the looks of it, he's pretending to act like his usual self. He's probably sick and wants to go to school. She shrugs it off, trusting him. He asks for a knife after looking at his. Sorry, baby, I guess I wasn't thorough with my scrubbing. She turns to hand it to him, making sure to hold it safely. None of it matters. Her child firmly settles a hand on her own, twisting her arm outward and impaling himself with the knife. He rests his head in the crook of her neck. Inko screams as loud as her vocal cords allow. She feels the warmth of blood pouring out onto her hand. Oh God, Mikumo, what did you do to yourself? Mikumo, she wails, cradling him as they hit the floor. Baby, why did you do that? Oh my gosh, phone. She turns a moment to look for a way to call for help. She hears Mikumo breath in, starting to yell. Help, my mom just stabbed me. She's gone crazy. Slowly, Inko looks back at her son, staring at the phone in his hands. He speaks clearly. He's fatally wounded and he's acting like nothing's happened. His eyes are empty. All emotion going into the phone call is fake. He's setting her up. This has to be some sick nightmare, right? This isn't real. None of this is happening. A warm, bloodied hand settles on Inko's face. Mikumo smiles at her. I'm really sorry, Mom. I'm not going to die from this, I promise. Baby, what did you do? She whimpers, wondering if she'll see the light go out of his eyes. Her heart's pounding. She thinks she might vomit. Something bad is going to happen and I really need to save you. I keep running out of ideas, but I'm willing to try this one. I'm sorry, Mom. Save me from what? Miku, it doesn't matter whether or not I live if you get hurt like this, or worse, she explains, panicking over whether to leave the knife in or take it out. His expression scares her. It's confusion, a lack of understanding. As she feels his heart pounding less frequently, slower, he stares up at her with eyes full of questions. She's crying, breaking a bit more when he wipes the tears from her face. Darling, please understand that whatever you're trying to do, I can't approve of if it means hurting you and your future. His face sours, like he's recalling his most recent nightmare. She cradles her life's joy, watching him flicker in and out of consciousness. He said he won't die. I don't know how or how he knows, but I trust him. Inko will always trust that her son does what he thinks is the right thing, even if it isn't. Inko is certain that whatever he's gotten involved with, he's not going at it the right way. Mom, please don't be mad at me for this, he asks, not a single tear shed on his behalf. She can't tell if he trusts that much in his plan, or if he's simply desensitized to the grand idea of death. I love you, and I am incredibly disappointed with you, that you think hurting yourself in any way could solve an issue. He looks down, full of shame, but she can clearly see he feels no regret in his actions. I'm doing it too. Yes, I heard. You're doing it to save me. I appreciate that you want to, but darling, you can't tempt fate. If it's my time, then so be it. What did you just say? He asks, grip tightening on her hand. For the first time this morning, she sees a lot of emotion in his features. It's terror. If it's my time, then so be it. No, before that. Darling, you can't tempt fate. His eyes widen, tearing up. Repeats in dialogue suggest the chance of finite possibilities. He mumbles, more to himself than to Inko. I could hit a dead end, playing through every option like a fucking video game. Excuse me. Fuck. Izuku Midoriya, you know better than that. Inko thinks over his muttering, coming to a conclusion. Her son somehow became a time traveler. Well, she's seen stranger quirk mutations, but she wonders how he ended up with a time-related quirk. Now is not the time for that. How are you feeling? There's pounding on the door, saying to open up. It's the police. Mom, I need you to act out of it. They're going to arrest you. I'm framing you for attempted murder. His voice is calm and resolved. It's a rather frightening thing he's talking about. Inko's scared. She trusts her son. Inko knows she's the parent. She's in charge. She knows more than he does when it comes to his well-being, but she's going to trust him. The door is busted open, and people swarm the apartment. She's taken away from her son almost immediately. She looks back, seeing him mouth an I love you. Inko lets herself get taken away. While almost dying in his mother's arms, he steals her phone. I need to see if I can lure Hasashi somewhere in the next loop. If there's a next loop, my next step is to hunt down that girl and kill her. That should be easy enough. Izuku lets himself give in to his injuries after making a request. Shouta was called in for a child-related case. He just has to stand watch and make sure the kid isn't hurt again. Why do I always get called in for stuff like this? I expel so many kids, people think I hate them. Honestly, he gets it. Shouta won't attract huge crowds of hero fans, while also getting the job done. That, and his quirk is fantastic for stuff like this. Shouta's very confused. Looking over the paperwork, the kid is quirkless. Why then? An hour passes and the kid stirs, sitting up and putting his head in his hands. Shouta's in his blind spot, allowing him to carefully observe and take note of. Dad, I know you're there. Eraserhead's tricks don't work as well when you put up with him for over 7 years. The boy hums. Not so much as a glaze towards him. Shouta has a lot he wants to know. I know, you're going to ask why I said Dad, how I know you, blah blah blah. Give me a minute, I'm still healing. Healing. The boy lifts his shirt, showing the bandage over the stab wound. Shouta stops him from ripping it off. What are you doing? Shouta deadpans, worried he'll tear stitching. Say, did I die on the way here? Mikumo asks. He did, actually. They were able to revive, though. How he knows is beyond me. I'll take that look at a yes. Mikumo relaxes his grip, allowing Shouta to remove his arm. The second he does, Mikumo tears it off with no emotion. Kid, you can't just, there's nothing there. The kid really did heal. I told you I'd heal. Don't take my paperwork as truth. None of it. Shouta thinks it over, having read what happened in the apartment, the call for help. None of it was true. Did you stab yourself and frame your mom? The boy nods slowly. You're telling a pro hero that? Why? Because you're the hero I know best. And you're the one who can occasionally work outside the law. I did it to get her locked up in a hospital. Why? Because on this day, at 3:12 p.m., Izuku Midoriya is killed in a fire. The words hang in the air, but Shouta doesn't believe a word of it. There's no way this kid could know this. I know you don't believe me. No one ever does at first. He looks saddened, hands gripping the sheets tightly. By who? He decides to entertain the idea. Hasashi Midoriya. Why? I don't know. The kid sighs, taking a phone out. I stole Mom's phone to see if they've been talking. Hasashi must be the boy's father. The kid skips through the phone, pausing. Hey Inko, I was wondering if it'd be alright for me to swing by and chat this afternoon. I know it's been a while, but I have a good reason. He quotes a message. If the kid didn't know his father was coming over until now, then how would he know about him killing Inko? It doesn't make sense. Maybe we're not dealing with something logical. Shouta hates when he can't rely solely on facts and evidence. I asked the paramedics to have you guard my room. Mikumo goes on to explain everything to Shouta, saying he's repeated the same few things several times already. He hums. What hospital did Mom get taken to, anyways? The moment Shouta says the name, Mikumo's face drops. He tears out the IV and he grabs Shouta's hand, sprinting out the door. What are you doing? Shouta asks, aware that this kid shouldn't be allowed to leave. That's the hospital that Rei Todoroki is in. I can't risk anything happening to her. The boy comes to a halt in the hallway, looking into an open room. Shouta can't keep up. How is he so fast? He grabs a chair and hits it against the glass, like he's done it before. Shouta grabs his arms and forces him to drop the chair. What the fuck are you doing? If I can break the window, I can quickly jump down and go from there. Saves time. I'm not having people watch a child cause property damage and then jump from a building. Fine, Dad, let's go. They head back towards the hall, Mikumo swerving out of sight. There's the faint sound of shattered glass echoing through the hall. Damn brat, Shouto makes it in time to see the kid halfway down, grabbing onto a nearby tree. It's clear he fell too fast, allowing him to dislocate the arm when he grabs hold. Damn it. The kid hits the ground and pops the arm in himself, taking off to the parking lot. Shouto jumps out after him, sure to find other things to latch onto before getting that far down. When Shouto finally gets to the ground, his car is pulled in front of the hospital. I'm going to kill this small child if he's the one behind the wheel. Shouto crouches down, looking into the window. Where the hell did you learn to drive? Can your feet even reach the pedals? I'm not that short, Dad. Here, you drive. That's literally the only option. Shouto sighs, taking the driver's seat. Besides, I explained everything to you. I'm basically an adult. I know how to drive. Do you have a license? No. Did you learn to drive at an age that was legal to drive? Also no. Then how the hell do you call yourself an adult, kid? He chuckles, driving towards the hospital and goes in. I can't believe you don't even have a license. I do. It's just a hero one. Not the driving one. What kind of person would become a hero before learning to properly drive? A brat, that's what. At the hospital, Shouto shields the boy's eyes, as much as he says not to. The outside of the building looked fine and safe. He had high hopes for the safety of the civilians. Things are burnt all around, yet soaking wet to the touch. The sprinklers are still going off. The soft blue of the walls is mudded out by the harsh splashes of red across the walls and furniture. It's so reflective it's almost blinding under the fluorescent lights. Shouto grabs onto Mikumo's arm as he slips on some of the blood. He tries to tell the kid to go sit outside or something. It's painfully clear Mikumo won't listen. Checking behind a desk, Shouto moves the corpse of a receptionist and checks which room Inko is supposed to be in. He checks the rooms under the Todoroki name. They're right next to each other. Shouto looks at the map, taking off. Izuku knows he should be feeling more, that he's becoming desensitized to the sight of tragedy. He almost fondly remembers the horror he felt witnessing events like Kamino. Now, he sees blood, organs, brain matter coating every inch of these halls and he only vaguely feels sick. It scares him to know this is something you can truly get used to. He tries not to step on any remains, failing once twice. It's not like I can be any more cursed than I am right now. The hallway is dark, the air is wet and he can't tell if the wheezing sound is from the sprinklers in the distance, or if there's anyone still alive. He has no time to check for survivors. It's not about them. It's about Izuku Midoriya. Izuku Midoriya and Rei Todoroki have to live. Shouto has always used his quirk when emotional. Izuku truly has no idea what might happen if something happened to his mom. Izuku hopes he doesn't find out. Dad tries to stop him from entering the room. Entering Mom's room, he freezes. The floor has remnants of green hair and metallic casings. The wool of the sweater she wore is scattered around the floor, soaking up blood and water. Looking around, Izuku finds teeth and chunks of her flesh. Why is he looking around? There's a mass of burnt tissue in the center of the room. The smell of charred flesh is easily recognizable to Izuku now. A hand sticks out from the heap. Not moving, not twitching. There's no ring. He knows what this means. He knows he failed. Failed. As if this is becoming some sick game he has to keep replaying in order to win. As if I could ever win at all. If this were just some sick story, would the readers become desensitized too? Would they stop, put the book down and resume later, put it down and never read it again once they got their fill of anguish and hate? Izuku wishes he could do that, as if there's some sort of pause to all this, that he can walk away and take a break. He'd never get such a luxury. Dad settles a hand around him, pulling him along and out into the hall, apologizing. Dad says he shouldn't have had to see something so horrific. But Izuku says otherwise. After all, he can't be sure he failed without seeing a body. Or something almost resembling what might be a corpse. Some loops, it's rather hard to tell. What about Rei? Izuku asks with a sigh. He's so tired. She didn't make it either. Of course she didn't. He runs a hand through his hair, struggling to feel enough emotion to move. What was it All Might once said? That many people are natural heroes when their feet move to save someone before they make the choice to. What does it mean for Izuku, someone whose feet are slowly becoming more frozen in their place? Then again, he's never been much of a hero anyway. Izuku sprints to Shouto's house, seeing that the news of the massacre is slowly getting out. There's no way the Todoroki family doesn't know yet. When Izuku gets there, he feels a sense of panic and dread he's never felt before in his life. The house is completely covered in ice. There's no entry, no exit. It's clear that it came from the inside out, which no space left for anyone inside. That means Shouto's still inside. For the first time in a long, long time, Izuku runs like it really matters. He runs, eager to make sure that his best friend and love of his life isn't in the house. Shouto, what did you do? Izuku tries to find any way of getting inside, finding absolutely none. He calls Shadow, spams him, getting no answer. Climbing the ice leading to his room, Izuku feels his heart drop. The ice is too thick to properly see through, but he can see the faint colors of Shadow's room. On the edge of the bed sits a figure, encapsulated in ice. He panics, breaking into the neighbor's house and explaining that he needs stuff to cut through the ice. They tell him that knives won't be enough, that no matter what he uses, it wouldn't be enough. Izuku refuses to believe that Shadow won't make it through this. He has to. He just has to. Izuku takes his mom's phone out of his pocket, dialing a number he never thought he'd dial. Hello. The voice sounds annoyed already. How did you get this number? It's private. Endeavor, your son trapped himself in the house with ice. I don't think he's moving. Izuku rushes out, eager to end this nightmare. I'm on my way. Izuku ends the call, not wanting to talk longer than he has to. It's going to be okay. Nothing is usually okay, but for once, just once, this has to turn out right. Izuku starts chipping away at the ice with the weak kitchen knives he stole. They scrap and dig, shrieking wildly. Izuku hardly makes a dent. It almost looks like the ice is growing back, giving Izuku some hope that Shadow's alive in there. He knows Endeavor won't be fast enough either. He dials his phone again. Oi, whoever you think. Kaken, please. His phone rings with the contact Deku popping up on screen. Katsuki flinches, moving to pick the phone off his desk. Oi, whoever you think, there's an inhale. It's sharp and ugly, familiar but not. Kaken, please. It's Deku's voice, but it's wrong. He's crying, sobbing. It's strained and twisted into sounding like it's not him at all. You're alive, he notes, wondering what the fuck is going on. You never thought I died. Now, please, I really need your help. Come to this location. Why would I? Because I trust you, and I need you to help me save someone. I couldn't save my mom, just please help me save him. Deku hangs up the phone. Katsuki scrunches his nose at the address and gets going. That's not too far, but far enough for Katsuki to wonder why kind of business Deku has in a rich neighborhood like that. He couldn't save Auntie. Whatever that means, he doesn't know. I heard Mom and Dad talking about Auntie being taken away, and Deku was taken to a hospital. They're listed as emergency contacts for Deku. Did she snap? No, Auntie wouldn't hurt a fly. If she was arrested for hurting anyone, it'd be Deku framing her or some shit. Katsuki can see it from the end of the neighborhood, a house encased in ice. It's jagged and angry, threatening to consume any who approaches. He takes a deep breath and goes to find the nerd. Scrape, scrape, scratch, scrape. Katsuki listens to the sound of metal, seeing a shadow in a bedroom window. It's Deku. Scrape, scratch, scrape, scratch. Katsuki uses his quirk to boost him up to the ledge, climbing up while hoping he doesn't slip on ice. Breathing echoes around Deku. It's fast and shallow. The air isn't clear, but neither is his mind. The ice is red and Katsuki worries if he should even approach. Deku. Scrape, scratch, scrape, scrape, scrape. It's getting faster. Deku is hunched over, face unable to be seen. Katsuki decides to approach, remembering how broken the boy sounded on the phone. He needs Katsuki, for whatever fucking reason. The boy sounded like his entire world was being torn apart, and he came to Katsuki. It makes Katsuki feel something, but he's not sure what it is. Is it sadness for how he treated Deku? Pity for how he still came to him? He doesn't know. Deku. Katsuki grabs his shoulders, effectively stopping the noise once he pulls back. Crouching down to where shitty Deku sits, Katsuki is almost horrified. The entire ground before him is ice. It's covered in various pools of blood. There are several bent knives all around him, used beyond what they were intended for and more. His hands are still moving. Several fingernails coat the shallow puddles of blood. Far more than 10, far more than Deku should have. His hands are mutilated, bone exposed and broken off, but they still move. They're still digging at the air, trying to get through the ice. Katsuki looks into the ice, wiping some of his blood off to get a better look. There's a kid inside. Deku, who is that? Katsuki asks, snapping in front of his face. Shadow Todoroki, the love of my life. What? This nerd never talked to anyone. Deku still looks out of it, not looking away from that spot in the ice. It's a sorry sight to see, even for Deku. Deku, there's no fucking way I can get through that ice. There's no way he'd. Katsuki snaps his teeth shut, watching the way Izuku's shoulders tremble. It's different from all the times this crybaby wailed. Katsuki doesn't know how, but it's different. Fucking fine, I'll try. Stand back. Katsuki glances over to make sure the nerd moves. Seeing how the bone is being covered by flesh, Deku's hands repair themselves. He isn't quirkless. Katsuki. Deku calls, voice hollow. Yeah, he deadpans, almost scared by the way he doesn't say Kaken. Thank you. I want some fucking answers, but most of all, I want him to stop looking so fucking pathetic. Katsuki blasts through the ice with his quirk, chipping at it much faster than Deku could. He approaches the boy encased in ice, yet to see any air pockets. He could survive if he were just dealing with hypothermia, but Katsuki finds that there is an air pocket, calling Deku when he's almost through the final wall. Deku sprints over, slipping on the ice and barreling towards Katsuki. Before Katsuki can power up his quirk for one solid blow, Deku passes him and rams a shoulder, crashing through the ice as if it were glass. The cracks of Deku's body is audible in echoes. It's disgusting, especially as he ignores it, struggling like a newborn deer to get back onto his feet. Katsuki enters the area, freezing when he lands his eyes on the boy known as Shoto Todoroki. He's alive, if that's what you want to call it. Deku calls his name, assessing the situation and running to him. He's sitting on the bed, legs completely frozen in ice. It climbs up the boy's stomach and chest and up the right side of his face. Shoto, he screams, trying to get any reaction. Katsuki can see the boy's eyes are trying to focus on him. Or the one that he can move. Didi, do I know you? The boy asks, words slurred by how his swollen lips get caught on the ice. His skin is blue and dull, angry veins showing all over him. The boy is in obvious pain. He tries to suck in a breath. He can't. Deku moves to try and get the ice off his chest, but it keeps growing. The boy is still making ice. Katsuki can see it still growing around them, closing them in. They have to leave. Shoto Todoroki is struggling to breathe but can't. There's too much ice surrounding him, growing back the moment Deku gets it off. Eventually, it starts growing on Deku too, taking him hostage to Todoroki's quirk. Shoo, look at me. You have to use your quirk. You have to use your fire and get us out of here. You can't stay like this. Deku pleads, tapping the boy's face when his eyes close. There's a sharp inhale. Deku's breaking, but he won't stop tearing the ice off. I know it hurts. I know how it feels to lose the one parent that loves you. Trust me, I know that better than anyone. What is he talking about? But this isn't right. This isn't all there is. I know you use your quirk when you're emotional. You did it when Ida asked if we were dating. You used it the first time I held your hand. The first time that I kissed you, you used it. I know you, but please stop using it. Use your fire, please. It's not. It's not. Shoto Todoroki tries to speak up. He tries to defend himself and answer, but his face is far too frozen over. Katsuki uses his quirk to try and melt the ice without hurting him. Deku just has to keep the ice off his chest and his mouth to keep him from suffocating. Even if Deku's fine with prying off some of Todoroki's skin in the process, there's only so much he can do. What's next after the skin is gone? Tissue. Deku can't keep it up. There's no way to save him, and no time to get help. It's your quirk. It's your fire. You and I grow up together and I get your dad's license revoked. You reunite with Tauya a few times. You and I fall in love and you set the curtains on fire when you asked me to marry you. The tears streaming down Deku's face are starting to freeze over, too. The ice is growing too fast. Katsuki doesn't want to give up, but his quirk can't keep up with it. They have to go. No matter how much ice Deku gets off of Todoroki, it grows back. He can't breathe. He's suffocating and Deku has yet to properly save him. For the first time ever, Katsuki doesn't want to be the hero. He knows he has to grab Deku and get the hell out of there, but he's scared. He hates to admit it, but there's something more here. And he knows it would ruin Deku if this boy died. There's a moment of silence. The ice stops. Deku stops. Shoto. The voice is soft and fearful. Katsuki looks up, seeing Deku's arms stuck to his body, coated in ice. Katsuki can tell he desperately wants to reach out and cup what's left of the boy's face but can't. He can't do anything. Shu, please, say anything. Deku's body shakes violently, unable to tear away from the boy he loves. I can't do this. I can't do this without you. Even if it's temporary, even if it might not be real, I can't do this. He begs, trying to get any sign of life. He can't get a sign of what's no longer there. Deku, we have to get out of here. Katsuki considers using Makumo instead, but he feels it would set him off. Katsuki can see the obvious signs of hypothermia setting into Deku. A car door is heard closing, coming from outside, allowing with a deep voice calling Shoto. Deku stares at the boy encased in ice, trembling and breaking, world crashing around him. Katsuki breaks the ice on Deku and picks him up, despite the trashing, and pleads to just let him stay with Todoroki. Deku pleads for Katsuki to just leave him to die. He has to be the hero, as much as he hates it, as much as he feels like he isn't saving anyone. He lets Deku onto the ground once they're outside. Deku crashes into Katsuki, holding onto him and sobbing. He lets out the most gut-wrenching scream Katsuki thinks he'll ever hear. Izuku's tired. He's tired and he doesn't want to be in this loop a second longer than he has to be. He approaches the address, metal bat in hand. He found it on the ground down the street from here. While he hates to think about what happened in general, he has to think about it from an analytical standpoint. Yes, Shoto uses his quirk when emotional, but he never thought the boy was capable of such high amounts of quirk use due to grief. It was a special case, considering what his mother meant to him, what it means about how his father would go forward with life. Then again, at this age Shoto wasn't exactly honest with his emotions. He bottled it up. He either had this push him over that edge, After going his whole life bottling everything up, or there's simply something else at work. Mom and Dad said something about a tragedy having to occur to make up for her surviving. What if it's more than that? If there's some part of this world in Quirk that causes a string of tragedies, even altering small things in a person's behavior to allow them to be believable. No, that's stupid. There's no proof of that. Any of it. Shadow probably did just break after holding everything in for so long. Though, the thing about a tragedy having to occur, or the butterfly effect kicking in, does make sense. Izuku sees her in the window of her room. She faces away from the door. Picking the locks, he lets himself in, sneaking past where her father sits on the couch. They don't see him slink in with a metal bat in hand, hands and clothes covered in blood and eyes puffy and red. Izuku sneaks into her bedroom, surprised she hasn't noticed him yet. He watches the clocks coating her skin tick, mocking him. He could swing right now and take her out. She'd probably never know what happened, unable to process it by time she died. That's not what he wants. Look at me, he whispers, watching her jump and swing around to face him. She turns to meet the swing of his bat. Izuku swings the bat, colliding it with the front of her nose and mouth. The sound of the metal shoving teeth out of their gums echoes a bit. She screams and tries to hold her arms up, making it painfully clear that she's not the same person as she was when she sent him into this loop. She still grows up into that person, he rationalizes. Her screams alert her father, who struggles to get into the room once Izuku blocks it with her dresser. What did I? She asks, on the ground, begging for her life. You used your quirk on me. His voice still shakes. It's still painfully clear that he'd been crying over the temporary loss of Shadow. His eyes are so puffy he can hardly see this girl. Chiyo met the swing of a stranger's bat, sound getting caught in her mouth as she tried to scream for help. She swallows a few of her teeth, spitting out what she can, struggling to properly breathe without aspirating her own blood and saliva. Trying to ignore the feeling of blood and loose remnants of her gums sliding down the back of her throat, she asks what she did. He looks like he's been crying, arms and clothes covered in blood, despite him not being injured. You used your quirk on me. Oh, Chiyo wonders just what exactly happened to cause that. There's no need for her to ask, seeing as he says it anyways. She can hear Dad struggling to get the door open. It's distant and far out of her reach. I grow up to marry Shadow, and you couldn't take that. He grows up to marry her Shadow. That's not right. He's going to love her. He has to. She can understand why she would use her quirk on him. After all, no one should have been able to melt that ice that's always encapsulated Shadow. It was supposed to be Chiyo that chipped away at him, just to reveal his soft side that only she would get to see. Chiyo thinks they've had a conversation like this already, in another loop, just by the way he's acting. She doesn't know much about her quirk, but if he mentioned marrying her Shadow to her, then she probably would have fake cried or something. Chiyo thinks about what may happen if she used her quirk on him while he's already in a loop. That's probably why he's doing this, to see if killing me can end it. Good on him for lasting this long. Most people might kill themselves before resorting to stuff like this. Or at least, that's what her mother did. Before she can use her quirk on him, he swings as hard as he can. She registers that it's coming towards the top of her head. But after that, there's nothing. Izuku makes the final blow, sitting on the ground and dropping the bat. He sits against the dresser, listening to her father trying to get into the room. His legs curl into his chest as he stares at the girl's corpse. He's still here. The villain is on the ground. Shadow watches her breathing even out, wondering what to do. What happens if he were to cancel the quirk? Would it snap Izuku out of it? Or would he be stuck in one of her clocks forever? He doesn't know, and it's not safe to find out yet. Tsukachi arrives on scene, looking at Izuku's body with a sad expression. How long has it been? The detective asks, taking in the situation. Half an hour. Shadow goes on to explain exactly what happened, why he can't just stop her from using the quirk. Even if I decided to, the suppressants are still in my system. You're telling me he's been living for 30 weeks by now? It hurts Tsukachi to ask. It's been closer to a year for Izuku than it's been for them. He might have lost it already. Yeah, Shadow huffs, picking up his son, ready to carry him home. I think, if he doesn't wake up within the next few hours, we should cancel her quirk and risk it, the detective says after a while. He might hate us for waiting so long, actually, but a few years will have passed for him. I think if he can't figure this out in a few years, then we have to risk it. Shadow agrees, but it worries him. He can't risk losing his son the day before his wedding. Then again, even if he goes decades before getting out of it, the wedding will have already been missed. They could postpone it, sure, but there's too much to take care of. Not enough time for either one. I'm taking him to Todoroki, Shadow explains, watching officers come in and take the villain into custody. Shadow can't help it. He can't sleep. He's excited. He's getting married tomorrow. It's one of those things where he never thought it'd happen, but it feels so natural, like it was going to happen no matter where life took him. It feels like he'd always have Izu, wherever life took them. He was hoping Izu would stay with him tonight, but then again, he's not surprised he wanted to have his vigilante fun and tire himself out that way. The house is clean. Classmates are still littered around his apartment. Shado's happy. There's a knock at the door, and Shadow moves to answer it. Everyone's so dead asleep they didn't hear it. Opening the door, he feels his heart drop a bit. It's Aizawa, carrying Izuku in his arms. I was hoping to talk about this in private. Aizawa mumbles, eyes on their classmates. Shinsu's still sitting at the table, getting up and making his way over. You could have gotten the door. Our room, he offers, leading the two back to their room. Aizawa explains everything to them. Shadow freezes hearing the person they describe as the villain. Where her eyes clocks too. Aizawa slowly nods. Do you actually know her? Shio-chu. We went to the same middle school. I had no idea she had a thing for me until the last day of middle school. She said she was in love with me, that we were destined to be married. And you said? Shinsu asks with a raised eyebrow. I said something like no, I cannot accept. I don't plan to date anyone, ever, despite immediately falling for Izu during our first year. You created a supervillain with your good looks. Ha! Shinsu deadpans, saying he's joking when Shadow looks like he's going to scream. He's trying to lighten the mood, seeing as Izu can't. When Aizawa explains the quirk, Shadow feels sick. Not because he could miss the wedding, but because Izu must be so hurt right now. Izu told Shadow about what happened to his mom. Everything about his childhood and the birth of Oni the Vigilante. There's no way the day of that fire isn't the start of the worst week of his life. He knows Izu well enough to tell that he's going to go back and try and change things. He's going to try and save his family, loop after loop. Even if it never works out, even if things go back to the way they were in the next loop, he's going to try everything. Shadow hears the other two say something. Leaving the room. They're alone. Izu's mask is off, showing his mouth in a bit of a frown, eyebrows scrunched. He takes a seat on the bed, pulling Izu into his lap and stroking his face. Can you hear me? He tries, knowing it won't do anything. There's a twitch in Izu's hand. Izu, it's Shadow. You can hear me, can't you? He tries again. Shoo, Izu asks, eyes still closed. His voice is strained, like it's physically taxing for him to answer. W, where are you? Are you real? There's a pause. Am I finally losing it? So they can still talk, but there's no way to get Izu out of it. Maybe there is. Maybe if this is a weakness in the quirk, there can be other weaknesses. I'm real. I'm here. A broken laugh escapes Izu's lips, but his body doesn't move at all. With a sound like that, he guesses Izu would be curled up in a ball somewhere, closing in on himself. I fucked it up, didn't I? Tears fall down Izuku's cheeks. Shadow wipes them away. I can feel you. I can't see you. You can't be real. What else would I be? Phantom pains. Izu, you have all your limbs, especially considering it's his face he's touching. I may have all my limbs, but you're also a part of me that's gone. Oh, Izu, I've done so many horrible things. Shadow, I'm so sorry. What is he apologizing for? What happened? Whatever's going on, it's not real. It's not actually happening. There's no answer at first, scaring Shadow. He thinks he's lost him a moment. Izu, hey, Izu, I'm here. He sighs, looking as pained as before. Is it that hard for him to talk? I had to get out of somewhere. I'm in an alley. Technically, you're in our room, laying on my lap. God, I wish that were true for me. He's on the verge of tears again. They talk over everything, trying to figure everything out. Izu tells him everything that's happened so far. Maybe we should postpone the wedding so he can mentally recover after this. Then again, Shadow's scared too. After all, Izu heals best when he can carry on through his life as normal. Nothing should change because of what happened. For his sake, the wedding has to go on. I can feel you touching my face. Izu hums, breathing steady. It appears this is a much-needed and much-deserved break for him. It feels like a ghost. Shadow would like to joke that he's not dead yet, but Izu can safely say otherwise. Every minute Shadow spends speaking with Izu, he realizes that it must not be the same for Izu at all. Shadow can hear Izu's responses immediately. It must be days for Izu before he hears another answer from Shadow. How many times has he thought he'd never get an answer? How many times has hearing Shadow's voice given him hope? There's no way to tell. Shadow decides he'll speak faster, trying to close the gaps of time for Izu as much as he can. He can feel me touching his face. Maybe that's enough. A constant reminder of I'm here for you. Izuku started the loop over soon after killing Chu. In fact, he's gone through several more loops since then, still trying everything he can to save everyone before trying to find a concrete way to end the loops. He feels a side of his face is warm, the other slightly cold. He knows this feeling. It's home to him. Shadow's voice hangs in the world around him, only for him to hear. Every few hours he hears the voice. Sometimes it's days before he hears a response. Shadow explained how the girl's quirk works. He has a lot of time before the wedding, but he's still eager to get out of it. He tells Shadow everything. Shadow said it's not real. He said it's all right. If it's not real, is there no way to save Mom? Is there someone he can find to make some of it real? Some way to alter reality and get him his mom? He doesn't know what to do. Izuku answers Shadow's latest response. Standing before the familiar bar, ready to get more answers. Shouta comes back into the room, standing in the doorway, hearing his son answer Todoroki. He can answer. What does this mean? It's not logical. If they can communicate, then that means with whatever happened to that girl's family, she simply didn't try to save them at all. She wouldn't have known about this, would she? Unless she kept it to herself, eager to let Izuku suffer on his own. Todoroki, tell him that in order to get out of the loop, he has to relive the week exactly as he did the first time. Izuku's going to hate it. Events or everything. His physical movements and reactions have to be the same. I don't know if it really is a matter of breathing, heartbeat, blinks, or what. Honestly, I believe he just has to have the same outward reactions to everything. Don't you want to tell him? Todoroki asks, raising an eyebrow. I want to talk to my son, yes, but he needs you. I get the feeling that you're who he needs most right now. That. And I don't know what could happen if you severed whatever weird connection you have. What if you can't get it back? It could be an extreme emotional response on both parts. It could be anything. This is the problem with kids growing up unable to properly learn how to use their quirk. They don't ever learn the limitations and other ways to use it. They grow up to be a one-trick pony that doesn't help anyone get anywhere. It can be hours or days before hearing a response from Shouto. Izuku's had time to try out different loops. He's had time to fail different ones. Watch his loved ones die in ways that shouldn't be possible. He's aware of the butterfly effect, but some of this just doesn't make sense. Shouto says it's not real. He'll trust that. Izuku stands before a familiar bar. One he broke into years ago to save his brother when he was kidnapped. One he's already visited before. He knocks on the door, waiting for a response. Of course he'll open it. He'd want to know who the hell would knock on a shitty place like this. The door opens after a moment, showing a familiar man with a hand over his face. Hey Shiggy, I need to talk to Sensei. He's risking getting disintegrated right now, but he's grown to no longer fear Shigaraki. A lot has happened in the past few years. The man scratches at his neck a bit, looking behind him and asking if Kurogiri recognizes him. Who are you supposed to be? He asks, letting the kid inside the bar anyways. Izuku Midoriya. We've met before but not yet. Kurogiri, get me a drink. No, he starts. Not only do I not want to waste my supply on strangers, but you're underage. You're the League of Villains. And you care about the law regarding the age I'm allowed to drink. Izuku rolls his eyes. Besides, I was asking about a Coke you keep in the mini-fridge under the counter on the right. They blink at him, Shigaraki grabbing his throat with his pinky out. Who are you? He repeats, bit of an amused smile showing through. He's interested in Izuku's story. Izuku Midoriya, time traveler against my will. Basically, I beat all the main bosses in life, only to get to the good ending of the game for some bitch to come along and delete my save points. So this is the last save point for you. How far back since the last save? I was 22 when the file corrupt. He gets dork language better than explaining it normally, mostly because he's less likely to get annoyed with me this way. Kurogiri stares between the two, trying to figure out what exactly they're saying. How to get to the next level? I don't know. The disembodied voice of my fiancé has yet to tell me. He jokes, can I talk to Sensei about it? The voice of Shouto comes back, along with the feeling of half his face heating up more and the other cooling. Your dad said that in order to get out of the loop, you have to redo everything exactly the way you did it the first time. Same breathing, same steps in the same place, same reactions, everything. Shouto explains, his voice slower than normal, more dragged out. What? That's going to be no. He won't say impossible. It'll be hard. In case you haven't noticed, I'm not the same person anymore. Give me time to figure it out. He answers Shouto loudly, looking up, as if he's able to see him if he looks hard enough. He pours his heart and soul into answering. This is weakness in the quirk. There has to be others. If we can communicate through worlds, who's to say I can't bring something with me? Who's to say I can't bring someone? There has to be another way to break the quirk. Another loophole like this one. Is that the disembodied voice you were responding to, or? Kurogiri asks, unable to hear Shouto's voice. Yeah, anyways, Shigaraki, can I please talk to Sensei? There's an incredibly long moment of silence before Shiggy answers. Do you and I end up friends or something? Not friends exactly, but shit goes down and you calm the fuck down. We play video games once a month. I can't tell him what happens. That, and spoilers to any witnesses of my life. Alright, you can talk to Sensei if he wants you. The familiar TV screen lights up. I heard it all, you know. All for one sneers through the screen. Izuku supposes there might have been a time where hearing this voice or seeing him would have scared him, even the smallest bit. Then again, that fear was replaced by rage during Kamino. Kurogiri. Yes, sir. He answers respectfully, creating a portal for Izuku to step through. With a mock salute to the villains, he leaves. All for one lays in his hospital bed, smiling slightly as Izuku approaches. So, you say you're a time traveler. Fascinating. He begins. Tell me, do you know just who you're talking to? All for one, in the future, you and I fight many, many times. All for one's expression drops a bit. There aren't any eyes, but Izuku still feels watched. You and I are enemies. You're All Might's successor, then. Why do you come to me rather than your master? He's more interested than annoyed at Izuku's actions. Your quirk might be able to help me. His quirk is just power. I need something more. Alright, boy, just what's your deal? Izuku goes on to explain everything. How they're probably just in someone's quirk, how he keeps looping, how to stop the loop properly. All for one sits quietly a moment, probably considering the options he has. So you want me to see if there's a way to bring your mother out of the quirk, into your reality, while also being able to stop the loop? Yes, it's not going to happen. Logically, you have no proof of any other way to stop the loop. You have to end it how it's supposed to be ended. What if I can't clearly remember what I have to do? It's been closer to a decade since that really happened. And I keep reliving the days, messing up the original memory. Find someone with a quirk that can help you remember, or spend a few loops finding out who you were before all this. Why are you helping me without getting anything in return? For one, why are you trying to change your fate? It means our paths will likely never cross as hero and villain, directly benefiting me. He can't be so sure. I can still get the upper hand on him. 2. You said it yourself. If this world truly isn't real, then it simply means I'm not real. Why waste my efforts on something that's never meant to be? It concludes. He says this, but Izuku knows better than to trust him. Do you, or do you not have a quirk that can help me save my mom? The hair on the back of his neck stands up. No doubt All for One trying to psych him out, make him back down. He never liked someone when they don't fear him. Then again, there's not much Izuku thinks he can fear anymore. Not after what he's created, what he's done. Bring me the girl with the quirk, and I may be able to see if there's any loopholes in her quirk. The doctor and I might be able to think of something. Tsubasa, he asks, feeling the hatred for the doctor bubbling up a bit. Do you two know each other? Izuku thinks back to that night, fighting the hero killer in Hasu, seeing how someone he knew as a child transformed into something. He was my childhood physician. He was the one who told me I'd never get a quirk despite having no extra joint. He sighs, seeing the doctor's already in the room out of the corner of his eye. Hell, at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if he would have taken the quirk if I did develop one early. The doctor approaches the boy, looking him over. Ah, young Izuku Midoriya. Long time no see. The man greets, almost getting bitten when he tries to shake his hand. I recall you saying your name is Izuku. All for One asks with a smug smile. He's not mad, he's still interested. After this week, in my timeline, I change my name to Izuku Midoriya. Where do I know that name? The villain wonders aloud. Ah, you must be Hasashi's kid. Hasashi? Why is it always fucking Hasashi? You already know him. He sputters, wondering how the hell they know each other so early in the game. What the hell was his father involved in? If I remember correctly, you were the main part of the contract. All for One goes on, clearly egging him on. What contract? Boy, are you telling me you grew up into adulthood, never learning the reason why he did what he did? He's smiling. I'm going to beat his ass too. What was the contract? Izuku doesn't realize it, but he's shaking. Why? He's not scared. Maybe he's nervous. A sense of dread from finally getting another piece to the ever-growing puzzle. A piece he never knew he was missing. I thought it was just to tie up loose ends in general. Before I get to that, you spoke as if you know Tamura. He asks Izuku, cracking his knuckles. Izuku wonders if the reason why he hasn't killed Izuku yet is because he can just try again. No matter how many times he could turn Izuku into a splatter on the wall, he can keep trying. After all, how many times has Izuku lived this loop, getting further each time yet always dying by his hand? He thinks this might be the loop that he can get All for One to finally do what he asks. After all, he's getting new information, new responses. Hopefully this change is good. I don't know, maybe he can tell we've talked like this before. Your father wanted to strike a deal with the League of Villains, invest in them so he can get his money back and more when they succeed in their plans, which, I'm sure you know what they are. What? He has business with popular groups of villains all over America and Canada, too. He decided to come back and strike up a deal with them. How did his father learn of a league that has yet to go public? Something so underground even Dad hadn't heard of them until USJ. What kind of connections does he have? What does that have to do with my mother and I? Well, Hasashi Midoriya is a pain, I'm sure you know that. He attempts to joke, clearly not trying. Sooner or later, after the first meeting, he snooped around enough to learn what he shouldn't have. Rather than kill him, he appealed to me enough to ask to strike a deal. After all, someone's got to pay for my medical expenses besides the doctor and I, and keep an eye out for other problems we may face. You're like the most infamous villain of all time, and you used my father as your own sugar daddy. What the fuck? Surely, All for One did all this just to have another pawn in his game. He planned to use Hasashi and throw him away when convenient for him, while letting Hasashi think he was the one pulling the strings. So the deal was yes, we can do business with him, but on one condition. You surely must know of Tamura's life? Yes. Tenko, you mean. He growls out, hating this man more and more. All of him? Ah, so you do. You see, hearing that this man had a family would've, what's the word, sparked something in Tamura that I don't need. So the condition was, he has to kill his family. He burnt my mother and I alive. For money. While Izuku had guessed that was probably the case, it still hurts to hear. Seeing as you were just some kid, the deal was to take out his wife. When told, he insisted that if he must kill the wife he still loves, he'd have to kill you too. Do you know why that is? Because I'm smarter than anyone wants. He guesses. Correct. He warned us that even at a young age you knew far too much for him to stick around. Why the gunman? He changes the subject. My mom dies by his fire. So why in every loop where he doesn't burn her alive, is she shot? There's a deadline we set, to ensure he's serious. If you two aren't declared dead by that date, then no deal. If he can't accomplish such an easy task, he's not worthy of anything we could offer. If he had any hired help, it was most likely to ensure his own success. After all, when did your mother die? Yesterday afternoon. Yeah, he bites his tongue. Yesterday was the deadline. He waited until the last second to do it. Surely, it's because he didn't want to. Don't say it. He probably love. He doesn't love anyone but himself and money. Izuku snaps. Where is he? I'm going to kill that bastard. For the first time, All For One genuinely smiles. He's on his way, probably bringing the reports proving you two have died. Why don't you stick around for that? Hasashi checks his watch, making sure he's early to meet with the big guy and his villains, sure to make a good impression. With him he has a briefcase, containing the reports of his wife and son's autopsies. He also has a few more things just in case, like the ring he got in Ko, and his son's shirt that he wore before burning. Even as Hasashi came into the apartment, he wondered why his son wasn't there. He didn't seem the kind to have after-school activities. He didn't have any friends to stay after school with anyways. At least, from checking in on them from time to time, that's what he could tell. That kid, Katsuki, seemed rather hyper-aware of Makumo, though. When Hasashi was around, they'd play together and it seemed Katsuki was as observant of Makumo as Makumo was of the world around them. When the fire was put out, and investigators left, Hasashi returned to the scene. He went through what he could see of the house, wanting to understand more of what he saw before burning in Ko. The fridge and cabinets didn't have much in them, not as much as he thought they'd have. In Ko's room was rather plain, only a few knickknacks here and there, as well as family pictures of her and Makumo. Hasashi wasn't in a single on. That is, what he thought, at first. In a dresser drawers, she has old photo albums, mostly burnt. Even as they chip and fall into ash, he knows what they are. Some old pictures from their wedding. It makes Hasashi wonder if Makumo would have taken pictures like this if he grew up to get married. Admittedly, Hasashi doesn't want to think about it. After all, he'd never grow up to have a wedding. Right, the meeting. He shakes his head a bit, knocking on the door of the building, wondering why the entrance is so out in the open. A young Shigaraki opens the door, merely stepping aside rather than greet him. Brett, good afternoon, Mr. Midoriya. Hirajiri greets, stepping aside and opening a portal. What about Shigaraki starts, teeth snapping shut as if he realized something. What about what? All For One is in the middle of his appointment with the doctor, but seeing as you're here, they should be finishing up. The man made of mist explains, allowing Hasashi to step through the portal. All For One sits in his usual bed. The doctor is beside him, writing something. Hasashi gets a polite smile from both of them. Midoriya, he greets, what's in the case? He asks, nodding to it slightly. The autopsy reports, he starts off, as well as some of their personal belongings. Right. All For One hums, analyzing his every move. It reminds him of Makumo, how he'd always be taking in information, whether or not it was noticeable or worthy of his attention. So, once you see this, you and I will have a deal. We protect each other, invest in each other when needed, pretend we saw nothing when shit decides to hit the fan. Hasashi chuckles, and by the looks of Shigaraki, I'd say that fans gotta get busted real soon. You know, even if you didn't bring me all this, I'd still know if you killed your family. The villain explains, one of my quirks allows me to see who a person has killed. It hangs over your head, like an ever-growing list of sin. I can see that you killed Inko Midori. He concludes, watching Hasashi think over what he just said. Why did you only mention Inko? Hasashi questions, thinking over the possibility that Makumo somehow tricked him. So, you are smarter than you let on. There's no sound behind him, but a subtle shift in air. Hasashi turns, meeting the bottom of a red shoe. The shoe keeps coming. It keeps hitting Hasashi. He grabs the leg attached to it, looking his son in the eye for the first time in many years. Those eyes hold hatred. You're alive, he asks, feeling his throat burn a bit. He doesn't know why. He doesn't care for the brat. He walked out of his life all those years ago. Hasashi set the kid on fire. He doesn't care about him. It seems we have a bit of a treat for you. All For One jokes. Makumo here was hit with a quirk that sent a 22-year-old him back to this age. Being 22 means that you never die, then. Oh, he died. All For One answers for Makumo, who stands shaking in anger and loathing. But as it turns out, he was a late bloomer with a wonderful quirk called regeneration. It's a healing quirk. It's a mutation. He dies in his own timeline, apparently to resurrect and become the vigilante known as Oni Midoriya. He's the demon that hunts and strikes you down. Whose side is he on? Whose side are you on? He questions in a low voice, careful to keep the sound of accusation out of it. To be quite honest with you, I don't take sides, Midoriya. I am, however, more interested and amused by your son than I am of you. Hasashi knows what this feeling in the air is. It's stagnation. All for one is causing what appears to be a calm before the storm. What storm is it, exactly? Hasashi. Bakumo calls him by his first name. Come on, kiddo. You can call me Dad. He loses a tooth when the brat strikes him across the face. Fuck off. I already have a father. 2, actually. You'll never be half the father or hero either of them are. You never die, do you? I did. Hasashi blocks the kick to the ribs, hesitant to fight back. It could be a trick. Where did he learn to fight so well? Then again, they said he becomes a vigilante. A dying breed around these parts. So what happened, kid? You burned me alive, killed my mother, and helped drive me into becoming a wanted criminal just for my dad to kill you instead of me. Hasashi lets the words sink in. He dies, not by his vengeful child's hand, but by the boy's new father. It sounds like something out of a story, to be honest. It's twisted, but most of all. So this was probably a bad deal to make, if it ultimately leads to my death. He questions, realizing it was the wrong choice. I fucking hate you. Bakumo screams, swiping his feet out from under him and slamming his head into the concrete. You've brought nothing but pain to my family. Bakumo, I'm sure we. Bakumo picks a nearby chair up, breaking it over his crumpled body. The splinters pierce into his flesh like stakes. My name is Izuku Midoriya. The brat seethes, pouring every ounce of himself into beating the shit out of Hasashi. When the fleeting sense that he's going to die by the hands of his son kicks in, he begins reaching for his quirk, to throw away the birth name Hasashi chose for him, only to rename himself what his deceased mother was found of. It's significant. Hasashi will give him that. It's throwing away the last traces of proof Hasashi was ever a part of their family. I suppose it's time to take him down a notch. Hasashi inhales, realizes Bakumo picks up on even the smallest of movements. Now, he exhales his fire, seeing too late that his son hooked his leg around a spare IV stand behind him, bringing it towards him and swinging, knocking back the first gust of fire. Hasashi tries again, using more of his quirk. Bakumo breaks part of the stand off, making a staff out of it. Hasashi almost wants to stop using his quirk, seeing how the kid just takes it. In a swift movement, with a shout of anger, Bakumo drills the stand through Hasashi's abdomen and out his back. He could feel the bend of the ribs before they cracked beneath the force. His fire is being doused by the blood escaping from his mouth. Just when Hasashi thinks it'll be fine, he takes out the stand and repeats the motion in a different spot. It's repeated over and over and over again. It's like clockwork, except his time is running out. He's set on this. Bakumo's still a bit on fire, focused solely on killing Hasashi. His intent to kill Hasashi is far stronger than his desire to save himself. What, did you think I wouldn't grow past a thing like fire? Izuku takes the IV stand out of Hasashi's organs, letting him freely bleed out as he begs for his life. It's funny, Izuku thought Hasashi would be the kind of person to be stubborn as fuck, even in the face of death. Izuku guesses they don't have much in common after all, then, calmly, he pats the fire off of him and waits until he can feel himself heal. Hasashi writhes on the ground, wood from the chair digging deeper into him. He's in pain. While Izuku knows he shouldn't be so happy to kill someone, he can't help it. He's been a bigger villain in his life story than All for One has been, and that's saying something. After years of growing past what happened to his mom, what happened to him in his life, he thought he'd moved on. At least enough for him to leave everything behind and be a vigilante for reasons that aren't selfish. Yet here he is, kicking his father's teeth in with an ear-to-ear grin. All for One watches quietly with the doctor. He's going to try and trick me. He's going to try and manipulate Izuku into bending to his will. He'd probably convince me to let him out of Tartarus in my own timeline. Like it'd ever happen. No one seems to really understand how hard it is to break into that place. Trust Izuku, he knows. He's had his fair share of vigilante work that required it. Nick, Izuku, bitch. He headbutts his father when he tries reaching out for him. It reminds him of the way his mom's corpse reached out too. She was pained and desperate, tearing at every emotion Izuku has and breaking him. Now, he looks at this hand, still desperate and pained, but he feels nothing that makes him want to change that. He can reach all he wants. Hasashi Midoriya is a sad, lonely man, and he's going to die as such. You grew up to be a hell of a kid, didn't you? Hasashi coughs up some blood, hand too broken to catch any of it. You used to be so polite and stutter, and you'd hide away from strangers. You can't reminisce over what you weren't there for. You can't fondly remember a time that wasn't yours. His breathing is starting to even out, but the adrenaline still pumps through Izuku's veins. I know that, kiddo. He's trying to manipulate me. You must be a good person. Nothing like your father? Huh. You're not my father. I'm not a good person. I just run a coffee shop called Inko's Drinkos. It has no trace of you. None of my life has you in it. You're forgotten by history. You're left behind and no one cares to remember you. It's like you never existed. Hasashi's expression dims a bit, taking in what Izuku says. I'll make sure you're forgotten in this timeline, too. Izuku freezes while making the final blow, seeing the light in Hasashi's eyes go out. His eyes are unfocused and his breathing is far too shallow. He's dead. Izuku killed him. All for one, and the doctors say nothing for a few minutes, simply watching Izuku's response. It's blank. After all these years, he finally got what he wanted. He thought the emotion would be lessened after all these years, that he'd be a bit less attached to his desire for revenge. But he's wrong. Izuku's happy. I'm sorry if this ruins your moment here, but I can't help but wonder. The doctor trails a bit. Wonder what? As you explained it, you're able to respond to your husband, but they said your consciousness is in the girl's quirk. So, which is it? Is it split? What exactly happens when you leave the loop, then? Surely, your mind can't be in the quirk yet not, in your body yet not. Leave it to the doctor to freak me the fuck out. Izuku sighs, running a bloodied hand through his hair. If he gets out of the loop, there would probably be a compromise between the girl's quirk, the world's laws, and your mind. If your mind can't be split like that, only to snap back into place, then the solution would be within line with the quirk. All for one suggests, maybe, to make up for it, it snaps your mind, what was it, a week back before she ever used her quirk on you. It seems like a compromise that's in line with the world's rules. How is time travel in line with what can and can't be done with the world? Izuku sighs, tired. There are going to be time-related quirks. We don't know the extent of hers. I'm not even sure if she would know the extent of it. What I'm saying is, by putting your mind back into the body of who you were a week ago, in your world, is possible. No time travel, but you'd be able to avoid this happening in the first place while also remembering what happened. It'd have all happened, yet not. There'd be a chance I wake up and think this is all just a bad dream? It very well could be, you know. He's right and I hate that. What else might happen? Izuku asks, getting information while he can, even if he doesn't trust them. You wake up wherever your body is now, maybe. Or, you simply don't wake up at all. Why does he keep using the word simply? Nothing is simple about this. Izuku may not wake up at all. Now, you recall what I said about your mother and how I could see that she perished. We may be able to work something out to get enough of her back for you. What does that mean? Well, I know a guy who has a handy quirk but a nasty drawback for it. That's why I personally don't have that quirk. He can resurrect someone with enough of their belongings and someone who knew them well. What's the drawback for him? That's not important. What does that have to do with the other quirk you mentioned? In this timeline, if you kill everyone you love the most, and I can see that you killed them, I'll give you his information, enough to find him when you go back. He'll do what you ask if you say I told you. What does he have to gain by this? Making Izuku a villain by forcing him to mentally break himself time and time again. Izuku thinks a long moment. Shadow told me none of this is real. It's not actually real, but the people essentially are. The world is, yet it's not. He could be telling the truth. He could have a way for me to get Mom back. What happens when he gets Mom back? Oh, by the way, you've been dead for close to a decade. Here's my new family and my husband. Maybe she can stay with Auntie. Mom would be so lonely. Yes, she's been alone most of Izuku's childhood, but he'd rather never lose her in the first place than bring her back. It's not fair to her. You can think it over. Spend a few loops thinking. I'll be here. You know where to find me. Izuku nods numbly, leaving the building, and then promptly ending the loop. He knows this sound. Izuku knows this sound very well. The all-might alarm clock I had in middle school. He reaches out and hits it. What a weird dream to have. Opening his eyes and waking up, Izuku sees the ceiling. He just lies there a moment, wondering how many times he'll repeat this, how many times he can wake up normally. Not yet aware that this is just a loop until a few seconds in. Izuku gets up and doesn't bother doing anything besides going to his mother. Good morning, sweet. He crashes into her, hugging Mom tightly. Inko doesn't know what happened, but her son is holding onto her like she'll fade away if he lets go. Miku, are you okay? She asks, checking him for a fever. I'm not going to school today. You and I need to talk. There's no stutter, no looking away shyly, no slouch. Of course, sweetie, you can stay home. You know you can ask me to whenever you want. I trust you have good reasons for the things you do. Inko can't name why, but this morning feels dangerously calm. Logically, it's like every other morning. Yet it feels like it's been busy every morning for weeks. But she can't recall a single morning that hasn't been calm. It's a nagging feeling that she can't remember something. Can we go out to eat breakfast somewhere? Can we spend the day together as a family? Bakumo asks, hurting Inko's very being. She doubts he was ever aware, but after Hasashi left them, he never really called the two of them a family. It was always my mom and I, like he knew a part was missing, as if Hasashi were needed to be a full family. Sometimes, Inko feels the same way. She misses him as much as she hates it. Of course, she repeats, kissing him on the forehead, wondering why he's not embarrassed by the affection. They go to the diner Mikumo picks. He said it's good. I don't think I've ever seen him go here. He orders without looking at the menu, and Ko orders something simple. It almost looks like he's looking for a wallet to take out his pocket, only to realize he's a child without money. It amuses her greatly. You wanted to talk. She starts, seeing he's stalling. His head drops a bit, hair covering his eyes. Mikumo twiddles his thumbs, unsure how to start. Mom, something very bad is going to happen to you today. No matter how hard I keep trying, it never stops. You die in every single timeline and I don't know what to do. He rushes out, looking up when he's done. Ah, so that's why she kept feeling like there was supposed to be more chaos this morning. That explains the vague dreams she had before waking. They weren't just nightmares. They were memories that don't truly exist for her. Slowly, he tells her everything. Her little boy is all grown up and she can't see that. She'll never get to see that. That he's getting married and she'll never be there to see one of the happiest moments of his life. It saddens her, but most of all, Mikumo, I am so proud of you. She feels herself tearing up. The food is brought over and they thank the waiter. What? He sputters, eyes wide and almost fearful. You lose me and you go on to do amazing things. You live a happy life and you save people. You may not be a hero by occupation, but you're a hero nonetheless. I'm not a hero, Mom. You're my hero then, and that's that. She huffs, smiling gently at him when he wipes tears away. Mom, I have the chance to bring you back. I can't save you, but I can bring you back. She blinks at him, and Ko knows this tone of voice. He's hiding something. What's the price you have to pay? A good parent always knows. None of the events happening in these time loops are apparently real. In order to get them to make the deal with me, I'd have to hurt the people I love. He winces saying it. Mikumo doesn't actually want to do it, but he's willing to for his mother. I can bring you back, Mom. Sweetie, don't hurt the people you love for me. I wouldn't want that for anyone. I want you to be happy. If I'm meant to die and leave you, then I'm sorry, but there's nothing we can do. But there is something I can do. He protests weakly. His hands are shaking. He's not touching his food. Hurting people to get what you want isn't what a hero. I'm not a hero. He shouts with his fist slamming into the table. When the other people stare, Ko gives them reassuring smiles. I'm selfish, and I do things for myself. Mikumo's crying. You're my hero. Isn't that enough for now? I bet you're your husband's hero, your brother's hero, your father's hero. People love you. I might be gone, but the love I have for you will never be, Mikumo. I think even if I never died, even if I was brought back somehow, I'd know I'm stealing someone else's time away. I bet it'd haunt me. She laughs weakly, playing with the ring on her hand. I'd love to stay and be your mother as long as I can, but darling, you can't tempt fate. They finish at the same time. Her son stares up at her with haunted eyes. And for the first time since getting here, he eats his food. It's a sign of acceptance. You say it in every timeline. Every time we have this talk, people only have a finite amount of dialogue options, like it's some game. Mikumo sighs. I see. And Ko chuckles, thinking of the comparison. Mikumo gawks at her. You knew how I'd act, yet you still tried to ask me, didn't you? Yeah, I started over the loop so I could talk to you first. How thoughtful. Mom, he cries a bit harder, likely coming to terms with how often they'll be saying goodbye. It's okay. We can have today. After this I have to let you die. It's like I'm the one. It's never going to be you killing me. She interrupts, seeing what kind of mentality he grows up with. I'm sorry, you know. When you were a kid I said something awful to you, didn't I? I said sorry when you asked if you could be a hero. I'm sure you remember, but I don't think I realized what damage it might have done until after I had said it. Now you've grown up, denying the fact that you're a hero at all. I'm sorry for whatever pain I might have caused. I was supposed to be there for you. It's okay, I forgive you. I know what you were feeling that day. She nods at him and smiles, and Ko takes his hand firmly. Now, tell me about your life. All the people you've saved, all your adventures. Tell your old mom everything. Izuku spent the day with Mom. They talked about everything. Every possible moment she got, she'd tell him to do the right thing. They both know what's right, but what they want to be right is two different things. Izuku wants to have it all, despite knowing he can't. He'll never have it all. At 3:12 p.m., he hides Mom in his closet, desperate to at least get a full day with her. She protests, saying to let it happen, that it's okay. Just let Izuku have this one moment, Inko. Hasashi opens the door, seeing Izuku on the couch, scrolling through his phone. The man stares a moment before Izuku meets his eyes. Hey kiddo, it's weird to see you talk. Izuku sighs, locking his phone and putting it away. I've already killed you, yet here you are, ready to ruin my life again. Hasashi takes a few steps back after he says it, suspicious of Izuku's every move. No idea what you're talking about, sport, but what do you say you and I catch up? Where's Inko? Izuku stands up and meets his father at the door. Safe and far from you. Hasashi's eyes widen. Izuku is finally confronting this man without fear. It's about time. You know, don't you? I know. What are you going to do about it? Well, Hasashi, I have a quirk now. You can't stop me. I'm going to kill you and all the gunmen out in the hall. I'm going to ruin your precious contract. Psychic, huh? No, you fuck-ass, I've been time traveling. He seethes, seeing Hasashi take a deeper inhale. It's fine, he can take it. Hasashi opens his mouth. Izuku places on foot back to brace. I can use this to set the gunman on fire. He closes his eyes. He hears the inhale stop. Then it never comes. There's heat in the air. There's fire crackling. But when he opens his eyes, he screams, Mom, you said you've been saving me all this time. And while I'm happy you love me enough to do so, I'm afraid I can't let you do that. Mom manages, turning her face to speak. She looks him in the eyes, not making a peep. Izuku breaks, pushing Mom out the way and tackling Hasashi. He blocks some of the fire with his hand, shoving it down Hasashi's throat despite his protest. Hasashi chokes on his hand, even as Izuku makes sure to claw at his esophagus and grab at whatever he can. Hasashi chokes to death on his own blood. Unable to fight long enough, Izuku sees Mom still alive. He makes his way out to the hall. The gunmen stare at this child, having just watched him kill his father with ease. So, are you going to kill me? He outright asks, making sure he blocks the doorway with his body. One of them clear their throat, stepping forward with his gun down. No, we don't have to. You killed the person we were hired for. We don't have to do anything now besides move on to the next job. I see. And why didn't any of you stop me from doing so? You're a kid who willingly set themselves on fire, and then shoved your arm down someone's throat. It's clear we probably wouldn't have stopped you. We're not suicidal. Oh, so now they didn't want to help him. Wow, okay, gotcha. He answers, well, I'd scram. I have to call the police now. Pleasure doing business. The gunman answers, giving a command for his men to leave the premise. What the fuck? Izuku calls the police and explains there was an attack by his father. He runs to Mom's side. She's burnt pretty badly, but is taking it a lot better than he thought she would. Why did you tell me it was your father that did it? She asks, checking out his burns. I know you still love him, Mom. I didn't want you to know. As much as I hate him. Why did you do that? I know you can heal. I know you can't really die. I know you can save me, but I'm your mother. I love you, and it's my job to keep my favorite child safe. Mom, I'm your only child. He laughs, wiping away his tears with the back of his hand. That's true, yes, but you said you gain a brother, correct? Whether or not I'm here for that, I'd think of him as my own son, too. Mom, the police and paramedics get here, and Tsukachi enters to room. Suki, Izuku calls, get my mom medical attention first. You clearly need. No, I don't. He answers firmly, knowing his quirk will deem it true. In the end, Tsukachi rushes people to both of them, equally. At the hospital, Izuku answers all of Tsukachi's questions honestly. Everything. After it all, Tsukachi stared at him a very long time before profusely apologizing for everything he's gone through so far. It wasn't the most sincere moment they'd had, but it's one of them. Strange, to say the least. Izuku sneaks out of his room, heading to his mom's. She's awake, but she's not looking too good. Sweetie, I didn't want you to see me like this. She smiles weakly, reaching out for him in that painfully familiar way. See you like what, Mom? He questions, feeling that this isn't going to end well. They're doing all they can, but I'm afraid that I might not make it. They're seeing too many complete complications. Blood clots forming no matter what they do. Some of the wounds are infected, though they've deeply cleaned everything. She explains, the monitor's beeping is getting faster. I can get the nurse. Mikumo, you know it won't change anything. I know that. I didn't come here to say my goodbyes, Mom. I know, but did you get to say a proper goodbye the first time? She asks with a knowing look. No, he didn't. That's part of what hurt the most. I can't. Then I'll start. She huffs, ruffling his hair. He climbs into her bed, tucking himself under her arm. I've never been so proud of my baby in my life, you know. I think this is enough pride and love to last you the rest of your life. He stays quiet. Mikumo, you grow up to be the most wonderful and lively person. I may not see it. I may not know you at all anymore, but I can feel it. You're loved by so many people. You've saved so many. Each day you do good for those around you, and I couldn't have asked for a better son. There's nothing he can say. I said it earlier, but I'm truly, really sorry for not telling you that you could be a hero. Your quirk is healing, right? How often do you really use it? Not that much. Not as much as you probably could, right? You could be a quirkless hero in whatever life you have. Her words are slowing. Her breathing is slowing. Everything is getting far too slow, far too fast. Mikumo, have you ever been mad at me for leaving so soon? She asks, running her hands through his hair. It feels like he can't breathe. And no, I was never mad at you. I know you'd stay forever if you could. I would. I know, Mom. I love you, Mikumo. I love you too, Mom. He sniffs. Do you need anything? He asks, wondering if she wants water. Izuku waits for a response. There's nothing. There's a flat line sounding. He feels sick, slowly looking up at her face, seeing her eyes closed with a smile. She knew but kept quiet. She let herself die. She made sure their last words were an exchange of love rather than goodbyes. He knows this sound. Izuku knows this sound very well. The all-might alarm clock ahead in middle school. He reaches out and hits it. What a weird dream to have. Opening his eyes and waking up. Izuku sees the ceiling. Okay, let's figure this shit out. He sighs, pushing himself out of bed. The loop has to repeat. Yes, Chu said that everything has to exactly the same, but he doesn't think that's true. No, that's probably something she says to stress people out. That's because no matter what, my thoughts will be different. That's already a change that there's no way to help. It can't be exact steps, exact breaths. No, I just have to do stuff correct enough to get those around me to act exactly the same. He hopes he's right, at least. He's willing to find out. At school, he thinks he made his first mistake. Mom was easy enough to repeat. Once he got over their last conversation, he'll never really be over it. His first mistake was instinctively catching Kaken's fake attack, though he's used all the same dialogue since. He still should have cowered back. Whatever the fuck Deku thinks he's doing, it isn't working. Katsuki saw his response was fake after he caught his arm. The best fighter here. No, Deku had to go and catch it like Katsuki's low on his list of worries. By the looks of it, he is. I'll trail the nerd after school and see what happens. Izuku doesn't know why Kaken decided not to bully him. Why he didn't burn his notebook while his classmate takes a video outside the door. No, he leaves him alone entirely. Maybe if Izuku never goes home, Hasashi and Mom will do as they're supposed to do, and Izuku can just go die and meet All Might and get that event done. Honestly, he's winging it. He hasn't heard a response from Shadow in a while, but he can still feel the way Shadow gently holds his face. Hot and cold, he runs to the morgue and sees his mom's body isn't there yet. He'll wait another hour before moving. Wait, no, I pretended to sleep in another loop and he still came along. Izuku does just that, pleasantly surprised when the man comes along and takes him hostage, repeating the same dialogue as before. Was I humming in my timeline? Nervously, right. No, mumbling. Ugh, it's hard for him to remember. Like always, the sewer cover rumbles and pops off, flying somewhere out from the overpass. Have no fear. The sewer yells. Oh my gosh. Izuku feigns, watching the symbol of peace himself hurl himself out of the sewer and onto the pavement. Because I am here, he shouts. Izuku can feel the vibration of his voice in his bones. Don't come any closer. The man presses the knife harder into the child's neck, but not enough to fully cut. I have demands. To hold a child hostage. Are you crazy? All Might asks with a serious tone. No matter. A dripping sound is heard from the end of the overpass, where the sewer cap flew. That's strange. This didn't happen the first time. Izuku sticks a hand between his throat and the blade, turning to see what happened that caught All Might's attention. There's a head of blonde hair stained red on the ground, a few feet away from the body. Kaken? He asks, forcefully getting out of the man's grip and running over. The sewer cap flew with enough force to decapitate Kaken, crushing most of his throat rather than cut through it. What was he doing here? Did he trail Izuku? This isn't right. He has to fix this. Izuku takes the knife and ends the loop, doing so a second time when he gets back up. He knows this sound. Izuku knows this sound very well. The All Might alarm clock ahead in middle school. He reaches out and hits it. What a weird dream to have. Opening his eyes and waking up. Izuku sees the ceiling. He fucked it up again. He knows this sound. Izuku knows this sound very well. The All Might alarm clock ahead in middle school. He reaches out and hits it. What a weird dream to have. Opening his eyes and waking up. Izuku sees the ceiling. Izuku can't seem to get it right. It's been 4 more loops. This time, he made it to the fire. He got home too early, burning alive faster than he wanted. When he wakes up in the morgue, the employee's still in the middle of the autopsy. The man screams and jumps up, screaming as he makes a break for it. Throwing himself between the table Izuku's open body is on and the door. He's healing too fast. Actually, there's a crashing noise from the window, and Izuku gets up, holding in his organs to see what it is. What's different about outside? There's a familiar scarf outside the window, and Izuku scrambles to get outside to make sure it's not who he thinks. He's still naked, but he doesn't care. In the alley hangs the body of Eraserhead, hands still twitching as his windpipe is crushed by his scarf. This doesn't make sense. Why was he here? Izuku numbly thinks a moment, trying to figure out how the fuck this could have happened. He sees the end of Dad's scarf caught in a window on the floor above them. His body hangs from the fire escape, but not in a place where he would have saved himself. The man screaming got Dad's attention as he was passing by, causing him to try and jump down. Whoever was in the floor above us probably got annoyed by the screams and crashing noises, slamming their window shut and getting the end of his scarf caught in it. The other end is wrapped on the fire escape, probably how he was planning on getting to the ground without injury. All this tragedy because I make the smallest mistakes. He knows this sound. Izuku knows this sound very well. The All Might alarm clock ahead in middle school. He reaches out and hits it. What a weird dream to have. Opening his eyes and waking up. Izuku sees the ceiling. 8 more loops later, he's further into it, reliving his days living at Dagaba Beach before he can move back into his apartment. He trips on a pole, getting a jogger's attention. The jogger goes to the beach, curious. It's Yagi. He stares at Izuku, able to recognize him so soon after what happened. Too much has changed. It's ruined. He knows this sound. Izuku knows this sound very well. The all-might alarm clock I had in middle school. He reaches out and hits it. What a weird dream to have. Opening his eyes and waking up. Izuku sees the ceiling. It takes 47 more loops after that. Izuku's still living on the beach. He doesn't move back into his home for another week and a half. He's got down the routine of the loops like clockwork. He knows exactly what time all the events have to happen. He's a pro at faking reactions to things and getting rid of suspicion. It's over. It's going to be over. He closes his eyes, sure that this is the time he fell asleep staring at the stars. He knows this sound. Izuku knows this sound very well. It's the steady sound of his fiancée's breathing beside him. He can feel the warmth radiating towards him. He reaches out, not wanting to let this dream end. Izu, go back to bed. No, I don't want this dream to end. This is the first dream I've had in so long. I miss you, Shaoto. What are you talking about? Shaoto rolls over to face him, eyes still closed. You said the other night that you dreamt you were being chased by Ida, but he was actually Inspector Gadget in an Ida cosplay. What? That was forever ago. Wait a fucking minute. Shaoto, is this real? He asks, jumping on Shaoto and grabbing at his face. It's solid. Izuku counts his fingers and reads everything he can to make sure he's not dreaming. Shaoto gently chuckles, pushing Izuku off of him and yawning. Are you okay? What day is it? Did I miss our wedding? Shaoto blinks at him, dumbfounded. What are you talking about? Our wedding isn't for like another 8 days. Calm down. 8 days. Everything happened the night before, meaning. He finished the loop and woke up exactly 7 days before it happened. Did it really happen? Fuck. How does Izuku know it was even real to begin with? Izu, seriously, what happened? All for One's theory about my consciousness needing to reach a compromise was right. Her quirk had me looping every 7 days, sending me back the same amount of time to make up for the ordeal of having my mind technically split up between the two. That's not logical. That doesn't make sense. Hey, are you crying? Come here. Shaoto holds Izuku, unaware that he began to cry. Once it happens, he lets everything out. Izuku spends hours crying over what happened. If he went back to a time before it didn't happen, that means he can avoid it and just stay home that night instead of go out. Everything will be perfect. How can I stop her without any proper evidence? I can't convict her of something she didn't do yet. Her other crimes, duh. Izuku's too worked up to think properly. He kisses Shaoto's cheek, thanking him for putting up with his bullshit so early in the morning. Do you remember a girl named Chiyo-chu? He asks, wondering if it was all just a bad dream. Shaoto thinks. Izuku's heart beats rapidly. Yeah, I haven't seen her since middle school, though. She confessed and I turned her down. Thank the fucking Lord it was real. As much as he hates thinking it was real, it means 2 things. 1, he got to kill Hasashi motherfucking Midoriya. And 2, he got to say goodbye to his mom. Properly, Izuku stands with his mask on, girl using an illusion quirk to allow Shaoto to see through the mask. He can't tear his eyes away from Shaoto. His hair is beautifully braided and he wears a beautiful white suit. And Izuku wears a green suit that matches the color of his mask. They talked about what happened and stopped Chu from ever doing anything. They found enough proof of her crimes and she's been locked away. Izuku wasn't allowed to beat her ass into the ground after she was taken into custody, but he made up for it by kissing his fiancée in front of her many, many times. What can he say? He's earned it. Izuku decides to have a bit of fun while they say their vows, changing a bit of what had originally been planned. You came into my life and you've affected every little part of it. I knew from the moment I met you that you'd change my world. Not once did I think it would be love until I had already fallen for you. I'd do it again and again, 1,000,000 times more. I'd do anything for you. You're my best friend. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for everything. Shaoto says, finishing his vows. Shaoto, I didn't expect anything to come of that time I was on a rooftop. When you called out and asked who I was, I had no idea you would get the answer to that question and learn everything about me. It scared me, because I thought I had to keep you safe from myself and my life. You're a capable person and a badass hero. I couldn't have been luckier to get someone to love me. Someone like you. You don't know this, but the engagement ring you got me. Shaoto widens his eyes a bit. He never told Izuku about the ring in this timeline. You saw it when you were a little kid, shopping with your mom. She told you that she'd want to give a ring like this to someone she loved. To give someone a ring that was almost as beautiful as they were. Shaoto, I'm flattered beyond words you gave me this ring, but no one deserves it more than you if that's what deems someone worthy. Shaoto Todoroki's steaming, almost catching fire from embarrassment. Ah, damn, I thought I could get him to set a fire. Shaoto reaches out and lifts Izuku's mask to his lips as the officiant finishes saying what they need to. Now then, they say with a smile, hero, Vigilante, I think you two know what comes next. Hands in Shouto's hair, messing up some of the braids, with Shouto's arms around his waist. They kiss. Okay, sadly the chapter is over. And if you enjoyed the video, just leave a like and subscribe with post notification, so when the next chapter is ready, you will be notified. Okay, see you in the next video. Bye.